There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
All right, everybody. It's Tuesday and it's New Year's Day. Happy 2019, everybody.
Yeah.
For
It's not New Year's Day today, but
Well,
you're going to see this on
You're
New
going to
Year's
see it on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
See, I was trying to be all slick,
Yeah.
but you ruined it.
Pre-recorded. I tell you what, that new book is selling. The audiobook is selling fast.
Yeah, in case you guys didn't see our
Yeah.
last movie retrospective, which was Soldier, I happened to mention on there, finally, Audible has put my book, Faceless Villain Volume 2, the audiobook version. They put it up for sale on Christmas Day, ensuring that no one would notice.
Yeah.
But it has actually sold quite a few copies the first 2 days it was up, and I was actually very surprised.
Between 10 and 15 copies a day.
Yeah, I don't think that happened with the first one.
No.
But I feel
and then
like
it's retroactively selling part 1.
Yeah,
And
I've
some of the
also
other
started
stuff.
selling part 1 too. So I'm kind of hoping, because we saw that Audible, I was saying, well, it's probably because it's new and they probably put it in their featured, new books in the
it's
true
in the
crime
new
section. Yeah, so I feel like that's probably the case, which that's fine with me,
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I should probably be getting codes, because they usually send you the codes for the free ones, and I'll probably send them to our patrons first, but if I have any left over, I will let you know when I get those. And
we'll send them to you if you have an Audible account or an Amazon account.
or an Amazon account,
So you
and
can leave a
review. Yeah, because it really does help, having reviews on there. I've noticed that my books that only have 1 or 2 reviews,
They don't sell as much.
they don't sell as much. But if you get up in the thing of having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 reviews, then people start, because nobody wants to buy something that they
not
don't
reviewed, right?
know anything about.
Right.
That's just the way it works. So if anyone has bought it, any of you guys bought it and you liked it, then please leave a review.
Yeah.
It really
And
does help a lot.
I'm building Jenny a sound booth
Yeah.
with all the soundproofing
Look, we
material
got all
and
the
stuff.
egg carton stuff.
Yeah. So
For Christmas, I got a little shelf that we can install in there that I
Right.
can put my laptop and the microphone on,
Right.
so I can actually stand up in the booth.
gonna re-record all the old stuff.
Yeah.
So it's all gonna go up in new revised editions.
And I'm doing my fiction too. I think I mentioned
fiction,
that before.
yeah, the
Because
fiction.
that's never been an audiobook. I just never got
Going
around
to be a different reading of Unseen Hand. It's going to sound more kind of like Jenny's normal show delivery of that one. It's going to be good.
Except without the swearing.
Yeah, no swearing. And
It's hard for me to talk without swearing.
Right.
But
Maybe another edition of Mammoth Mountain.
yeah, I think we talked before about how we're gonna.
Yeah.
I want to expand that book and make it longer, and because there was so
There's
much
more in it
extra
and-
stuff that we could
Right.
have added. And when I did the audiobook, I added stuff that wasn't in the print version.
Our
so-
equipment wasn't very good.
Yeah.
More stuff has happened with the case. That book could be updated. Yeah, a second edition. I think a second
Yeah.
edition deluxe Mammoth Mountain would probably be pretty cool.
It's deluxe. It's like the
With some
Criterion Collection
Right.
edition.
Maybe we'll put the real names for certain locations and certain people in there.
Yeah,
'Cause
I still
there
don't
were
know if
some
I'm going to
peop-
get into legal trouble.
We don't know.
For
Yeah.
not putting the name of the place, because I'm, it's not like the books, it's not like millions of people are reading it and they'll all turn up at this place or anything like that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I like to keep my ass covered.
Right. Yeah, the place where that happened is for sale.
Yeah.
It's always for sale. That's kind of creepy. But they're
It
trying
is,
to sell
isn't
that
it? Because
one.
it's
Yeah.
like we looked it up. What was it on Zillow or something like
Yeah.
that? And we saw, it's always up for sale. And I wonder why that
We did a
could be.
show about that.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Showed them where it was and everything.
Yeah, because we
Well,
found pictures of it
yeah.
on a real estate site
Yeah.
of what it looks like now. I mean, it's changed a little bit since he stayed there, but he
Pretty
still
close.
recognized
Yeah.
the layout and everything like that. So
Yeah, it was kind of
if
creepy.
you want to move into a vacation condo in
Yeah.
Mammoth Mountain, California, that
I don't
may
think it's
or
supposed
may
to
not
guys
be
in it
haunted.
anymore. based on what we believe it's about, No, it's not there anymore.
Well, no, because it followed your ass here.
Yeah.
It's doing shit here, like ringing our
If I were
doorbell.
to go back there, I bet you that bitch would kick up again.
It probably would.
Yeah.
We've thought about doing that.
Thought about
we wanted
going
to
back
rent
there.
it out for a week if we could afford
Yeah.
it. Like we could go out there and stay in it for a week and see if anything happened. I bet it would, because you'd probably be all creeped out staying
which would
there.
start that damn
which
weird...
would start it up again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because you got kind of creeped out just looking at the pictures.
Yeah, just in the photographs.
And it looks kind of different now than it did then, but, you know.
If I get creeped out, sometimes weird shit like CD drawers start opening up.
Yeah, that does definitely happen. Because he has to be
the doorbell starts ringing at night.
he has to be like in the right frame of mind. But when he's in the right frame of mind, then all kinds of fun shit happens.
Doorbell starts ringing, garage door starts opening.
Yeah.
Things vanish and never reappear.
Speaking of paranormal, just on Thursday night of this past week, I was on live radio exploring the bizarre on K-Core Radio. I was on there with Keith Linder.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Seattle Demon House, which I wrote a book about, and also he's written a book about it, because I kind of wrote about Steve Mara's experiences, and Keith wrote about his experiences. So now there's 2 books out about it. So I'll let you guys know when they archive it. They also do a YouTube version, but that usually takes a couple weeks, so I'll put a link in the sidebar when it comes out. So if you didn't catch it live, you should be able to catch it later on. It was a pretty interesting show. Keith's actually a really nice guy. I think this is the first show that I actually did with Keith.
Yeah.
I've done a bunch with Steve, but I think this is the first one I did with Keith. It was really, it was really interesting.
I've talked with Keith, during when we were writing his book.
Yeah.
I had like extensive conversations with him, that nobody else knows about, just you.
Yeah.
And he's an interesting guy.
He really is.
It's a weird case,
It is very weird.
Yeah.
It is a weird case. But yeah, so we talked about that a little bit. So like I said, I'll put links when the archived version comes up. Let's see, what else? Our last movie retrospective, as I said, was Soldier, the Crussell film.
Yeah. Somebody went on there and talked about what a dumpster fire that is, man. I said, take that shit off there.
No one cares about your stupid opinions.
Yeah, I don't care about your opinion. Lucky I don't block you.
Well, that's what I always say. Like, I don't like I said... if something sucks, I'm not gonna blow smoke up its ass and say that it's good. But it's like I'm not gonna dwell on it either. Yeah. It's like if you don't like it, go find something you do like. I don't.
Everybody's got taste. It's like
that's what I mean. It's like
music. They got some people that just love certain music. I said, man, shit sucks.
Right, but it's like I'm not gonna get all dump on him about it. It's like I used to know this guy who was like a big movie buff, which I am too, and he had a lot of the same tastes as me, but if you didn't like a movie that he did like, he would fucking argue with you about it, like why you should have liked it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, son, that's not how shit works. It's subjectivity. Look it up sometime.
Yeah.
But like I said, if people like something that I hate, then I'm not going to get all up in their shit about it. It's none of my business.
Yeah, it's like, when Last Jedi came out, I hated it. A lot of guys couldn't stand it. But I really can't relate to these guys where they have whole channels based around why that movie sucked. They're still stuck on it. Why that movie sucks.
I know they are. That is the saddest thing in the fucking world. Yeah. It's so sad. Just find shit you do like. There's so much stuff in the world. Please stop wasting your time on shit that you don't like.
Well, I don't
understand it.
I would like watching those shows, for like a couple of weeks, and he's coming at it with new angles of why it sucked, but it's been over a year now. Can you
imagine being inside the head of someone that's like all they do is just like fucking think about shit to whine about?
About why Star Wars sucks.
I can't imagine it.
Star Wars sucks because the people who make Star Wars now are not the same people that used to make Star Wars. It's changed.
Well, that's what happens. People get old, people die, people move on to other projects.
New people come in to
It's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And honestly, like I said, I know people piss and moan about this and that, but it's like... we've been going since we've had our A-list, our AMC A-list thing. I mean, we've seen like quite a lot of good movies. We've seen a couple kind of shitty ones, but not many. I was like, I was kind of thinking maybe we'll
Holmes
see like
and Watson Blue.
Well, everybody's saying that.
That Blue.
The first half of it was funny, but then it kind of just went down the toilet.
Yeah. And then,
I'm not a big fan of Will Ferrell anyway. I love John C. Reilly, especially in his dramatic roles. He's actually a better dramatic actor, but he's a good comedic actor too. Like I said, some of the jokes were like obvious, but it's stupid humor. It's just the same kind of stuff as Step Brothers and stuff like that, which is.
A lot of the movies I think have gotten a little bit better recently.
Honestly, this week, and you guys will have seen it if you watch Matinee on Sunday. I loved The Favorite.
Favorite was good.
Oh my god, I loved
Aquaman was good.
I loved The Favorite so much, you guys. It's like I'm gonna buy that shit. And actually, when we saw it, I loved it. And the more I thought about it, like in the ensuing days, the more I liked it. I hope it gets all the Oscars.
Aquaman was really good.
I actually really liked Aquaman.
Yeah,
it was super fun.
Undersea Flash Gordon, really.
It really was. Like I said, it's like, and I think I said this in the review. It was like, it was cheesy as shit, but like it owned it.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, it's fucking cheesy. That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It was super fun. It didn't take itself too seriously.
I was surprised that Into the Spider-Verse was pretty good.
That was actually amazing.
Based on how much the comic books suck now for the Marvel. Like, the Spider-Man comic books suck right now.
Although a lot of people like that Miles Morales character, which is why they made a whole movie based around it.
Well, I don't think the comic book for Miles Morales is any good, though. Either heard the writing is pretty bad. But the movie was good.
I can't speak to that because
I kept hearing that the writing was pretty bad.
But
thing is that it's just like Peter Parker. It's the same character. He can vanish. But
he can turn invisible. Peter Parker can't do that.
I really kind of like Spider-Man Noir better out of that movie. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see.
Do you know? I heard that
Spider-Gwen.
I heard that they are doing a spinoff on Spider-Gwen.
What about Spider Noir?
I'm not sure, but I think that's going to be the next one in that that offshoot. I think they're doing one about Spider-Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to see.
Yeah,
like I said,
bad.
I'd watch a whole movie about Spider-Ham as well because that shit was hilarious. A little pig that looks like Spider-Man. That's awesome. Okay, so what else?
Might as well get back down to this shit before we go. What are we doing today?
Axe Murders.
Axe Murders.
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to say, I always do thank yous. Our newest patron is named, it's either Via or Via. Okay. I'm not sure. So I'm covering the bases for both pronunciations.
Probably Via.
That's what I'm thinking. So thank you very much. Also, our previous patron, Sophie, has also increased her support by quite a large amount. So thank you very much, you two.
Yeah, thanks, Sophie.
Very much appreciated, especially over the Christmas season, like I said, because I know everyone's broke. I know I am.
So spent all the money on Christmas presents and ham and shit.
We got good Christmas presents, though. Yeah. He got me so much cool shit. Mm-hmm. Dude, he got me the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. Yeah. You guys know how much I love David Lynch.
Clothes.
And you got me a shit ton of really nice clothes.
Yeah.
I got new running shoes because the kitty stole one of my running shoes and hid it, and we never found it.
Never found it. And it turned this place upside down.
The kitty either took it or the poltergeist took it.
Either the poltergeist took it or the cat put it into something that I threw away.
That got thrown away. That's possible. Maybe she put it in a box.
Drug it into a box and I threw the box away.
And the box got thrown out. That's possible. I don't know, but the cat is obviously smarter than we are because she hid it in some place where we never discovered it.
Gone. I'm starting to think that it got thrown away.
It probably did because it's nowhere. It is nowhere in this fucking house. All right, so this is the first show of 2019, and I thought, what better way to start off the new year than with some fucking axe murders? Yeah. You know how much I love axe murder. I don't love axe murders. I'm just fascinated by axe murders for some reason. And we've done a bunch of shows about axe murders. We did Hinterkaifeck. We did the St. Albans Street Massacre. We did the very famous Villisca Axe Murders of Iowa. And also, like I said, there was a lot of fucking axe murders in the early 20th century America. I mean, a staggering amount.
Well, there were a lot of axes laying around.
Too many axe murders, really.
Lots of axes laying around. People chopped
wood. Well, everybody had one because, you needed to cut wood for, for fire and for...
And people knew how to use them.
Right, so everybody had one. So it was a weapon of convenience. But... Still, that's still like a weirdly specific thing that seems like a Midwestern American phenomenon from the early 20th century. Not just Midwestern, because it was in the South and stuff too, but where somebody would just bust into your house, take your axe, and chop up your whole family. Like, what the fuck is that about?
More I think about it, the more it just kind of sounds like it might be, just regular home invasion. Nowadays you might have 3 or 4 guys bust into your house with pistols or maybe some shotguns or something. Probably to steal your drugs or your drug money. That's usually a lot of home invasions are in the drug wars, But what if you have a traveler, guy who's basically a bum, he's on foot. He gets desperate, he's tired of sleeping on the road, A lot of this is before automobiles. He says screw it. He goes out in the backyard and finds the wood pile and there's the axe and he's got a weapon right there. Kicks in the door and just axes the family. But back in those days, that was very risky because everybody had guns.
That's what I mean. It just seems like
you had to move fast, I guess.
It seems to me that this is not. I mean, obviously, this is not a normal thing for people to be doing. I mean, because you know, I would rather sleep under a bridge. I'm not going to axe a whole family, killing babies and shit like that. What the fuck? That is fucked up. And honestly, killing people with an axe, one, it's hard. Because as we will say, when we're talking about the Axman of New Orleans, like half of his victims lived, even though they got axed in the fucking head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and you're talking about 1800s and 1900s, and a lot of people don't realize that the United States didn't really have what you would consider to be professional police departments until the 20th century. There were places in the United States that didn't have police departments, you know, until the 30s.
Right.
You know, maybe 20s. So
you might have like a town marshal
that
that would wander in and go, well, killer's not here anymore, so can't help you.
And those, you know, sheriffs and marshals and the little neighborhood police stations, I mean, they were maybe like on par with a rent-a-cop, you know, or security guards that guard the front of gated communities. They didn't really have that many. They didn't have much in the way of investigative techniques, and if they couldn't catch the guy and he skipped town, they were never going to catch him.
Well, yeah, obviously.
They didn't have real police.
Because,
really,
like I said, and we talked about this on our Villisca Axe Murder show. You know, not only, I mean, Villisca is the most famous, but there were a shit ton of other, like, entire families getting wiped out with an axe type situation that happened in Kansas, happened in Colorado Springs, like, right around the same time. And some people have speculated that it might be the same person. And same kind of thing with Axman of New Orleans. This shit happened. And then the second case we're going to talk about, which I had never heard of, and this is fucking crazy. This is just like, remember the show we did about the Atlanta Ripper? And I said, as into true crime as I am, and I love reading about that kind of shit, I had never heard of the Atlanta Ripper. I discovered it accidentally while I was researching another case for my book. And this is another thing, the Mulatto Axe Murders, which happened in the early 1900s in Louisiana and Texas. I had never heard of these until someone, like a listener, recommended it. And I looked it up, and it is even worse than the Axman of New Orleans, and no one ever talks about it. And it's like, I could hardly find it even, like, I found some old newspaper. Somebody had kind of done, like, a chronological thing of all the newspaper reports from the time. But because, again, just like Atlanta Ripper, because most of the victims were black or mixed race, it seemed like no one gave much of a shit. Also, there's kind of, and I feel kind of bad that I didn't really put this in my book, but they think that it might be solved because someone confessed, but they're not sure if this person was the only perpetrator or if they got railroaded or if they just made it up, or they're not really sure. So they were convicted, but it was pretty much just the confession, and like that was. So
what cases are we taking care of today?
We're doing Axman of New Orleans, and we're doing the so-called Mulatto Axe Murders, also known as the Voodoo Murders, or I think I've also seen them called the Southern Pacific Murders because it happened along the Southern Pacific Railway line, that kind of stuff. But we'll talk about that second because that's kind of a big complication. Like I said, I'd never heard of it, and I was like reading it, going, "Oh my god, this is fucking amazing! How did I never hear about this shit?" It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, so let's talk about the Axman of New Orleans. Probably most people familiar with it if you're not a big true crime aficionado, which, you know, if you are, you've heard of this case because it's very, very famous. But if you haven't, if you've seen American Horror Story Season 3, which is called Coven, they had a character called the Axeman who was based on this uncaught serial killer. This happened about May 1918 to about October 1919. 6 people killed, 6 people wounded. There were a lot of attacks where the people didn't die.
You said 1918 or 1818?
1918.
1918, okay.
1919.
Okay.
I should mention,
so
too...
it's 20th century.
Yeah. I should mention, too, and some people have requested this, and I want to do a show about this, too, but there was also a series of axe murders back in, I believe, late 1800s, like 1880, 1890, called the Servant Girl Annihilator Murders.
Yeah.
Which I love that fucking name. I know it's terrible, but that's like the best fucking name. So I'm going to have to do something on that too. But like I said, there was a lot of fucking axe murders going on. And I don't know if it was just because axes were around. I don't know. It just seems like such a strange...
I think it was.
Because, well, here's the thing, though. I mean,
every house had them, pretty much.
Right, but people had guns, too.
Yeah.
And it seems like killing someone with an axe is difficult and messy. And it seems like you would get... I mean, it seems like you would get caught really easily because you'd be covered with gore, but obviously these people didn't get caught, so I guess it wasn't that. I guess
well,
back in
you
that
just have
day.
to see what the situation was. I mean, if it was a home invasion, it was going to be, a crime of opportunity. They know the person was either asleep or, not prepared for it. The house doors, a lot of places, especially in the semi-rural areas, people didn't lock their doors.
Yeah.
And they were wooden houses, so when you walked
True.
across the floor, there was no way to sneak up on anybody.
Yeah.
So if you were fast, you could probably just run in
Yeah.
and axe someone before they could arm themselves.
Yeah.
Because people had guns. All people had guns, even in cities, back in this day.
Well, yeah, of course they did.
In the early 20th century. There was no concept of anything like gun control. I mean, why would you want that? You just wouldn't. There were no police. You had to protect yourself. The United States.
Well, like you said, particularly in rural areas,
Yeah.
but in the cities too.
Still to this day, you have a lot of people that live in cities in the United States. They're gun control advocates. You couldn't, where I came from in Mississippi, you couldn't have gun control there. Because you can't call the cops. You call the cops, it might be 40 minutes before they show up.
Yeah, because it's so far away.
And a town might only have 2 policemen, one for the day, one for the night. You're gonna entrust your safety to 2, and they don't give a shit about you.
Well, and they're probably not. I mean,
And they're like old guys.
Yeah, because everyone lives so far apart in these rural areas that no one, not a lot of crime happens.
It doesn't happen that much because you know your neighbors, you know the names of your neighbors. Everybody's watching everybody else's shit.
Yeah.
And race isn't a factor. My dad still lives in that environment, and his neighbors are all black country people, and they watch out for him. They called the ambulance when he started to go down with the heart attack. They're visiting him. You know what I mean? It's not this stereotypical shit you see in Hollywood movies. Not in Mississippi. Today, everybody gets along pretty much.
Yeah.
Especially out in the country.
So
country people will survive.
All right. So the first thing, let's talk about the very famous Axman of New Orleans. Now, this person or persons was a serial killer, like I said. Ultimate victim tally, as far as they know, was 6. Also 6 wounded. Normally, what this killer would do was they would take a chisel and they would bust out like a panel on a door to break in. They would always break in while the people were sleeping, so it'd be the middle of the night. They would usually axe them in the head, but usually with the blunt side because you don't want to use the sharp side because it'll get stuck and blah blah.
And it doesn't have knockdown power.
Right.
Blunt force trauma is very effective.
Yeah, they would do that. Generally, nothing was ever stolen from the house. Almost always, the perpetrator would use the people's own axe, sometimes a straight razor. And so it was always like a weapon of convenience, and mostly they would leave the weapons behind at the scene. They were only seen a couple of times and very, very fleetingly. So there's pretty much no description of this person. And they still to this day have no idea who this
nothing
person
taken.
could be. Nope. Never.
It's a thrill kill.
Yeah, it does seem to be exactly that. And like the Zodiac, this person also, allegedly, this person sent a letter to the newspaper, at some point during the Reign of Terror. Whether this was actually the killer or not, I don't know, but it is a very famous letter, and I'll tell you, I'll give you a little summary of it later on. Now, most of the victims of the Axeman of New Orleans were Italians or Italian immigrants, Italian Americans, and a lot of them were grocers, weirdly. So they're not sure if it was ethnically motivated. Some people have speculated maybe it was mafia related, but that doesn't seem my mafia doesn't usually go around axing people. It's like too messy. Like I said, they usually just pop you in the head. But some people have speculated that maybe it was like a sexual crime or sexual type of thrill, even though both men and women were killed. I've seen some crime writers say, oh, well, they only killed the men when, they were in the way of the women getting killed. But one of the crimes was an old man that got killed, and there were 2 girls in the house who were his nieces who weren't killed or weren't even attacked. So I don't know how much, I want to give to that because it doesn't really seem. But so what the motive for this is, who fucking knows? Now,
if they're connected, they were sure that they were connected.
See, that's another thing. It's like some people thought, even though the MO in pretty much every case was very, very, very similar, some have speculated that perhaps only a couple of them are related and then the others were copycats, which could have been. But like I said, the MO was just so similar with,
sometimes what would happen is a sensational case would happen and pretty much every detail of the case would be printed up in the local newspaper.
Yeah,
So
and somebody said, hey, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, the locals would say, oh, man, wow, that's quite an incredible crime. I owe this grocer over here a bunch of money. I don't like that guy. He's an asshole. If I kill him and make it look like that other one, they'll blame that killer
Then it's
for
a
it.
win-win.
Yeah, so copycatting isn't always what you think it is. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, because like I said,
to get rid of an enemy and then blame it on somebody else.
Yeah, and actually they said that in some of the Atlanta Ripper murders too. That's why they're not entirely sure how many people this Atlanta Ripper actually killed, because they speculated that some people that lived in the neighborhood might have said, hey, I can get rid of my girlfriend and blame it on this serial killer. Right. So whack, and they just kill them in that way.
And the more it happens, it can become kind of like a pandemic of it.
Right, exactly.
Where, it's like a kill for all.
Yeah.
As long as you make the homicide look like this, you'll be scot-free.
Yeah, because you can just say, oh my God, the serial killer, they got her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah, people aren't what they're made out to be.
Yeah, we're the
Some
worst.
guys, people are assholes. Yeah.
A lot of people are assholes, but
sometimes it's assholes get knocked off though too. You can't, you don't know. It's
true.
It depends on the situation.
I do kind of like, I have some days. I try not to be so cynical. I know I'm getting old and I'm getting more cynical in my old age. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's true because I was cynical when I was a teenager too. But I always kind of feel like, you only hear about the assholes because they're assholes. And I mean, it's kind of like a big deal, and you hear about them, they make more noise, they make more. But I feel like most of the time, probably 80% of people are all right.
What?
Probably 80% of people are all right.
Yeah. Although it all just depends, like a lot of the crime statistics you see here in the United States, if you actually get down to the nitty gritty, it's one bad guy killing another bad guy over money. That's most of it.
It does seem like that's money. A lot of...
As long as you're not in the drug trade, your chances of being murdered are fucking very small here.
Although, like I said, since I write about true crime, there are too many cases of just people, hey,
random,
I was just walking down the street, home, got off the bus and was walking home from work, and all of a sudden...
Any amount of those seems like
happen.
too much.
Any
amount of those is too much. But if you actually do the statistics, you're probably more likely to be struck by lightning or killed by bees, or much more likely to be killed in a car accident.
Well, see, that's what I try to think. There's like I said, I write about this shit all day long, but I'm also a very statistics-minded person. So I'm just like, yes, this is horrifying. Yes, it would suck if it happened to you. It would suck for your family, obviously. But the chances of it happening are infinitesimally small, and probably you should worry more about wearing your seatbelt and not crossing the street against the light and stuff like that.
When you look at firearms-related violence, is what it's called in the United States, the number looks big. But in that number, they also have all the suicides, and they also have all the police shootings in there. You take those out, then you're dealt with a pretty big chunk. And if you look at that chunk, most of that's drug trade related.
Yeah,
just is. So
yeah, I mean, most of the time
we have guns here, and it freaks out a lot of foreigners. And you see shit on Hollywood movies, you think that you can just ride around, you're gonna randomly get shot. That's very rare here, very very rare.
Depending on what neighborhood you.
Yeah, it might happen in a very drug infested neighborhood where there's drug wars. Yeah, but you could probably every major city kind of has a little area like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't usually feel all that unsafe.
No.
Sometimes I do, like if I'm downtown, obviously, and people are drunk and shit like that. I'm more worried about that kind of shit, where people are like walking around and they're drunk and doing some stupid shit. I worry more about that.
Yeah,
because we do go downtown a lot.
But
where we live, I don't worry about.
That Pulse nightclub shooting happened just a mile up from the street
from
where the club. We were out that night. Yeah,
and we were right down the street.
We also had a guy shoot at one of our favorite bouncers. He threw him out, and he tried to come back in with a 22 pistol and shot at the door.
Yeah, he shot at the door.
And the police station was right there.
Yeah,
Police got him.
The police station is right around the
Yeah.
corner from our favorite haunt, our favorite nightclub. It's literally right there. It's right
Yeah.
there. There's like the nightclub. There's another nightclub. There's
Yeah.
a pizza
He
place.
didn't know where he
And
was.
then there's the police station.
Jackass didn't know where he was.
I guess not.
Got drunk, got thrown out, and he went and got his pistol
Yeah,
out
he
of
wasn't thinking about
Yeah,
it.
he got his pistol out of the trunk, and I'm going back into that club. And they
Yeah.
shut the door on him, and he shot at the door, and the cops were right there.
Yeah.
They took
So
him alive.
bad
He didn't
shit
kill
does
anybody.
happen.
Yeah.
Like I said, we were downtown the night of the Pulse shooting.
Yeah.
And we were just down the street, but we didn't hear about it until the next day.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like so it's creepy to think about, but you know,
Weird shit happens here.
it does. Yeah. I mean, it's Florida.
Yeah.
There's a meme about Florida Man for a reason.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the victims of the Axman of New Orleans. Now, the first ones were Italian grocers. Joseph Maggio and his wife, Catherine. Now, they had a grocery store in New Orleans, and they lived on the premises also, like many business people did back in the day. Evidently, same as this is pretty much the killer's MO. He used a chisel to get into their back door. He actually cut their throats first with a straight razor, and then, before he left, like, hit them both in the head, almost as though he wanted to cover up the attack. Although, Catherine Maggio, I mean, the throat cutting was so severe that she was almost decapitated. Now, Joseph Maggio was actually still alive after the killer left. His brothers, who lived next door, actually discovered him. One of his brothers had heard him groaning through the wall, and they came over and found them. Now, this was about 2 hours after the attack, but by the time the brothers got there and found them, then Joseph had passed away as well. So that's the thing. And so again, they find bloody clothes in the house, which apparently the murderer has taken off, so he's changed into another outfit. They also found the axe that had been used. They found it in the backyard of another property next
now
door.
he changed clothes. Did he change into their clothes?
Oh, I don't know.
He-
Or did he bring some?
See, yeah,
Planning.
I would try to see if any of their clothes were missing.
Yeah, I've never seen that said anywhere. They just said that they found some bloody clothes as if he had changed clothes, but maybe he brought a change of clothes because he knew how messy axe
And that's awful risky to leave behind your bloodstained clothes at a murder scene.
That's what I mean.
Wonder
This
why they
person,
didn't.
whoever this was, they never got caught, but they didn't seem like they were all that worried about
Maybe
getting
he wasn't
caught.
wearing his clothes.
Maybe not.
Maybe he was wearing the clothes of somebody he didn't like. Killed
Yeah.
the person, got the blood on those clothes, and then changed into their clothes, leaving his enemy's clothes behind, bloodstained.
I mean, like I said, again, this was 1918, and maybe even criminals back then knew that police ain't shit.
Yeah,
They can't do anything
yeah.
unless
police ain't
they
shit.
fucking see you doing it.
Right.
So maybe they weren't all that worried about it. Because
They
honestly,
didn't have DNA.
yeah.
And I
they didn't
guess
even know what the fuck that was back then.
maybe if nobody in that town knew who you were because you were just passing through, there's no chance that they could identify your clothing. Maybe that's what the thinking was.
I kind of feel like a lot of these axe murders, and I think I said this on the Velisca one too, because I feel like a lot of these were drifters or somebody that was just going in and out of
Yeah.
town, particularly on the railway. Because back then, I mean, it was like super easy to just jump on a train and just, hey, I'll
Yeah.
go to the next town and axe a whole family
Yeah,
there. And
hobos
then
would be on those trains
yeah, you could go like all over the
Yeah.
country and no one would.
for free.
Right, and no one would like be the wiser. So I feel like that might have been what's going on here. Although this person did kill a lot of people in the New Orleans area over this brief period of time. It was about a year and a half.
Yeah,
that
Albert
this
Fish
happened.
Albert Fish was doing that too. Remember?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a show about that motherfucker at some
Yeah,
point.
and he was jumping up on those trains and raping dudes. And isn't that weird?
Yeah, he's super
Yeah.
special.
I think that was Albert Fish, wasn't it? That was before he settled down.
I don't remember. Actually.
I think he was a bum for a while, a hobo, and would ride around those trains. Unless I'm confusing him with someone else. And then eventually he settled down into being a painter. I could have swore, if I remember correctly, he started as a hobo working those trains.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was him.
I don't know.
He liked raping other guys.
Yeah,
It was before he got into the kids. I think it's the same guy.
that seems a little weird. That seems weird though that you'd start out with one thing like that and then kind of, oh, I'm going to be a pedophile. I decided.
Yeah, I think from what I remember, he started off as a teenager on those trains.
That could be, like I said, I'm gonna have to do more research about that.
Yeah,
because
we're gonna do an Albert bit.
A lot of
We're gonna do an
people have
Albert Fish
requested
show.
us to Albert Fish.
Yeah,
and
we'll
it's
do a
like,
fish show.
He's so disgusting. I mean, not like we haven't done disgusting shit on the show. I don't mind it.
He was a sadomasochist, that dude.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. They find out, like, the straight razor that has been used to kill the Maggios actually belonged to the victim's brother, who was a barber. However, the person that one of the people that worked in the barber shop that the brother ran said, "Oh yeah, well he sent that razor out to, you know, whatever the razor fixing place was back then, like to get a nick honed out of the blade." So for a while they were suspecting the brother. I don't know if they suspected anybody that worked at the razor fixing place, because you'd think they'd be like, "Hey, I could use this razor for something."
So he's trying to frame people.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, which goes back to why would you leave clothes behind?
Yeah.
Maybe he was trying to frame people with those clothes.
That's actually something I've never seen mentioned. I wonder if that's the case. Yeah, because the brother was, because they asked him, they're like, "Okay, well, they were getting murdered like 2 hours ago and you were home. Why didn't you hear that shit?" Because, you know, the murderer broke into the house. It's like chiseled out the door panel and shit, and you were right next door. And the brother was like, "Oh, well, I'm joining the Navy and I was out at a party and I got super inebriated." Right. And so he's like, "So I was home and I was like drunk sleeping."
Right.
So, you know, which that's totally legit.
Somebody that knew him.
But they couldn't find anything about it. So they had to let him go in the end. So now the next attack happened. This was on June 27th, 1918. This was another grocer named Louis Bezemet. And he lived behind his store with his mistress, Harriet Lowe. He had a wife, but she lived somewhere else.
Right. Well, shit like that would happen.
Yeah, there was this whole thing. This one was like fucking okay. So this happens. They both got hit in the head with an axe, with the blunt side of the axe, covered with blood. They were discovered by the bread delivery guy the next morning. Now, they both lived. They were unconscious when they got there and didn't remember anything. But they both ultimately survived, although Harriet Lowe died later. Now, the weird thing about this, the first thing the cops did was they arrested a dude that Louis Bezemet had just hired. He was a black man, and his name was Louis Ubicon. He was about 41 years old. And he said, "Oh, well, obviously this guy is black, and he just started working here, and they just got hit with an axe, so it must be him."
Gotta be him.
Yeah. So that was pretty much all they needed.
The thinking of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, he was working while black.
Yeah, working while black.
So
working for the white people while black.
I guess.
Yeah,
and well, yeah. So they decided, okay, well, obviously it's this guy. But obviously they couldn't find any evidence against this poor guy, and then they let him out. Now, here's the crazy thing though. Harriet Lowe, she, I hate to cast aspersions on this woman because she did die later from complications from her injuries, but she seemed kind of crazy.
Okay.
Because as soon as they took her to the hospital for injuries and everything like that. Now, initially she said, "Oh, it was a mulatto man that attacked me." And I realize that's kind of an offensive term. I did use it for Mulatto Axe Murders because that's usually what they're known as, but
that's only offensive today. Back in those days.
Yeah, back in those days it wasn't offensive. But so that's what she said at first. But then she said, and the police didn't really believe her because she seemed kind of histrionic. And honestly, the more she was in the hospital and she started when it came out in the media that she was Louis Bezemet's mistress rather than his wife, there was all kind of shit in the media about her. And then she started accusing the media of, "Oh, you just said that to discredit me." And she started shitting on the chief of police and saying, "I'm not going to cooperate with this investigation, blah, de blah." And then she comes out and says, "No, it was Louis Bezemet, her boyfriend, who was also attacked. No, it was him that did it." So they search his shit and they find this trunk and it's got these letters in it that are written in various languages, German, Yiddish, Russian, what have you. So they conclude he's a German spy. And then Harriet Lowe helpfully says, yes, he is a German spy. So they arrested the dude for the murder, right? So he gets let out of jail like only a couple days later. The 2 police officers that arrest him are like demoted and all this other kind of shit. Now, meanwhile, Harriet Lowe, she's in the hospital this whole time, like making up all these crazy stories. They did surgery on her face because, you know, the attack had actually paralyzed half of her face. So they did surgery on her and they were trying to fix it, but there were complications from the surgery and she actually ended up dying. Now, Louis Besame was arrested again, like later on, you know, for being a spy, for being a murder, whatever. They actually did put him on trial, but after 10 minutes, the jury acquitted him because they were just like,
They were trumping shit up on
this
board.
was the craziest shit ever. Yeah. So there was that whole thing. So there was a whole media circus about that.
Now, they couldn't remember anything after the attack. They were asleep when they attacked?
Yes.
Okay. That's
In every single case, the victims were asleep. It was the middle of the night.
That's what they call Casper. He was Caspering people.
Yes.
Casper, the friendly ghost. It's when you sneak up on somebody when they're asleep and kill them.
Not so friendly.
It's called Caspering. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I never heard that term, but I like that as a verb.
Caspering,
I like that used as a verb.
You've been Caspered.
You've been Caspered.
Yeah.
All right. So the next attack, this was a poor 28-year-old woman named Anna Schneider. She was 8 months pregnant. Now, she had a husband, but I don't think he was home at the time. She woke up in the middle of the night, saw a dark figure hovering over her who then just bashed her in the face with a blunt object, which she could not recognize at the time. And she was knocked unconscious. Now, her husband came home from work and found her in that state and took her to the hospital. Now, she did eventually recover. 2 days later, she actually gave birth to a healthy baby girl. So,
Damn.
you know, I know, she's badass.
Yeah.
She got fucking bashed in the face with a fucking...
And then gave birth.
Yeah, and then she's like, you know, suck it, Axman.
Yeah.
Right?
Hit him with the flat edge right in the face, huh?
This actually was not an axe. They weren't sure. They thought the weapon might have been, there was like a big heavy lamp that had been on a table like next, and they think that he bashed her in the face with that. Because like I said, it seems like he didn't bring anything to the scene. He would just kind of come in and go, do they have an axe? Do they have a straight razor? Oh, well, all they have is a lamp, so I guess I'll just use that. So he just bashed her in the face with that. And like I said, no rape, no robbery, no nothing. He just breaks in the house, bashes everyone in the head, and leaves.
He's getting off on the power of choosing who's going to die. And the power that he wield from being invisible, invisibly terrorizing the community. And holding them in the clutches of fear. That's you know.
It does seem now if the letter, and I'm going to get to that.
You're never going to know when I strike. That kind of
and
you'll never suspect me.
I'll probably read the whole thing too because
I'm
sure you'll probably find it amusing. But if indeed this famous letter was written by the same person that was doing the murders, then I think
was his attitude like I just said.
Yeah, then you're probably
that's
spot
that's
on.
Him, yeah.
That's probably the same guy.
Yeah.
So at this stage. This seemed like the person had not had to break in. They had just come in through like an open window and had, like I said, bashed the woman's face in with a lamp. Initially, they arrested this dude named James Gleason, who they said was an ex-convict. But they, and really he just ran away from the police because he was like, shit, the police, I don't want to get arrested. He didn't know what he did or anything like that. So they couldn't find any evidence, so they eventually had to let him go. Now, the next attack occurred on August 10th, 1918. Now, this was an older man. He was in his 70s. His name was Joseph Romano. And he lived in a house with his 2 young nieces. Their names were Pauline and Mary Bruno. And they were actually in another room when this happened. They woke up in the middle of the night, heard a commotion coming from their uncle's room, and went in there to see a person fleeing from their room, and their uncle's head and face was all covered in blood and fucked up. Now, they said that this person had dark skin, was heavy set, and was wearing a black suit and a black slouch hat. That's what they said.
Okay.
So, Joseph Romano was not killed outright. In fact, when the ambulance came to the house, he was able to walk to the ambulance. However, he died 2 days later from his injuries.
Yeah.
So,
they
now...
probably had problems with an infection. I mean, what was it?
This was 1918.
I don't even think they had penicillin then, did they?
I don't think they did they? Yeah, I think that might have been a few years later. Right. Yeah, if you got sick back then, you were fucked.
If you got infected, you were a goner.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So I feel like after this particular attack, I mean, yes, there had been ones before this and it had been horrible, but this one was kind of the one that sort of lit the spark of panic, like, in the city, because people were like, oh shit, there's this phantom. He's just breaking into people's houses and axing them to death. And, you know, so there was like a whole panic thing going on. And then, you know, all these detectives come out and said shit like, oh, it's a Jekyll and Hyde character. He's probably just a normal person, and maybe it's someone you know. And then, like, at night, they just turn into this crazy monster type of person. Now, the next attack...
I doubt that.
Yeah, well. Yeah. The next attack happened on March 10th, 1919. This was Charles Cordamelia, also an Italian immigrant. He had a wife named Rosie, and they had a little girl, a little toddler named Mary. And they, so the same thing happens. Someone breaks in their house and attacks them. Now, their neighbor, who was across the street, was another Italian grocer named Orlando Giordano, and he heard screaming coming from the house, so he ran over there to help them. Now, he sees that Charles Cordamelia is laying on the floor. His head is covered in blood. Rosie Cordamelia is standing in the doorway with her dead baby in her fucking arms.
Yeah.
I know.
He killed the baby?
Yeah. He tried to kill them, too.
He bashed the baby, huh?
Yeah.
Damn.
So
did she see him?
Here's the thing.
Right.
This is like really making it hard to make me feel bad for you guys, because so Charles and Rosie lived. Their daughter died, sadly. Mm-hmm. However, afterwards, Rosie Cordamelia said, oh, you know who attacked us? It was Orlando Giordano and his son Frank, who were their neighbors, who came to help them when they were screaming.
Really?
And they're like, one.
She said there were two of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
One, Orlando Giordano was old.
Right.
And in very poor health. They're like, there's just...
Maybe sure her brain was fucked up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, here's the thing. And Frank, who was 18, they're like, look, the killer came in through this little panel in the door that they had put. He was a huge dude. He was like a bit like 6'2" or 6'3".
Yeah,
so he couldn't fit through the thing.
I was thinking just the profile of these homicides. This is a slightly built person. This is somebody
like a cat burglar.
Yeah, a cat burglar type, and he's also somebody who really doesn't have the physical power to go with you toe to toe when you're ready for him. You know what I mean?
Well, obviously he's attacking people while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
He's kids and stuff.
He's a weakling, really, is what it is. He's a weak guy.
That's what I'm getting.
So that's why he's going for you while you're asleep.
Yeah.
Surprise attacks. Because a lot of these killers that really revel in the kill and also have physical strength and power, they want you to be awake. They want you to talk with them. They want you to beg for mercy.
Right.
Yeah, they want you to feel small and puny in front of them. They don't want any of this. I'm going to sneak around Casper.
Yeah, this is sneaky shit.
Yeah, Casper shit is that's because you don't have any of the strength to go toe to toe. That's what that is.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case.
I think what happened was that she got bashed over the head and her head got jumbled. You know, her brains got jumbled up. Maybe the last person she saw was the neighbors.
Was them, and she thought, oh, it must have been
somehow
them.
the neighbors did it.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Brain damage can get you to think some crazy shit, too.
Well, yeah.
You know, like...
turkey necks.
Turkey... Yeah, I'll tell you.
Did we tell that story?
Nah, my dad thought that the doctors installed turkey necks into his chest for his heart bypass. Yeah. I said, what are you talking about?
Turkey
I
necks.
saw him put turkey necks. He had them turkey necks in there. Remember I tell you about the neighbors take care of my dad? There's a black family that lives across the street. They're military. When he deploys, guy's white. He's a sergeant. His wife looks out for my dad. My dad's elderly. She brings him turkey necks. And he loves those things. Well, she came to visit him in the hospital that day of the bypass surgery. And after he got out of the surgery, he was convinced that the doctor put turkey necks in his because
chest.
He was thinking of the turkey necks that
she
Clarice brought him. Yeah, her name is
Right.
Clarice. And Clarice brought him turkey necks. Not that night, but Clarice would regularly bring him southern turkey necks.
And he was thinking about that,
And he loves Clarice, you know what I mean? So he saw Clarice and then went into surgery and turkey necks. She was thinking of turkey necks. Turkey necks. And the turkey necks went into his heart. I was talking to the doctors, what the hell is he talking about? Turkey necks. we don't know. She's on some kind of medication, you know? I go, no. He had that hospital psychosis. My dad lost his damn mind and
well, the funniest thing about this story...
He was on certain drugs going in and out, and he had heart attacks, and it kept shocking him. And I guess he kind of checked out mentally for a few days. and was hallucinating.
The funniest thing about this was that when you told me about this story, because he, he was gone for 2 weeks. He was in Mississippi, and he kept like calling me and telling me what was going on. And he said that when he told his dad, "Hey, there's no turkey necks in your chest. I don't believe that," or whatever. What did your dad say? That's your prerogative.
Yeah.
That you don't believe me.
Because I don't believe you. There's no turkey. That's your prerogative.
And that's what his dad sounds like. That's
I said that if there were turkey necks in there, man, it would be rejected. And, I know a doctor's not going to put turkey necks in.
They would just spit out the turkey necks.
I saw him put turkey necks in there. I had a whole handful. That's what he said. And I said, nah, I'm not going to believe that. Because I speak in my normal dialect to my dad. When she hears me talking to my dad,
it's so funny, you guys. It's so funny. He gets more and more like Southern the longer he talks to his dad on the phone.
And the madder I get. If I get really fucking mad.
And if you get mad too.
Really mad,
you start talking Southern-y.
I start talking about how much ammunition I got. And all that. But I said, I'm not going to believe that he put turkey necks in there. And he goes, that's your prerogative.
That was the best part. That something about that is just very, very funny to me.
So I just kind of gave up and went, all right.
Okay. But I think
but he's got it all straightened out. Now he called me. I was thinking Clarice, she gave me turkey necks and she came to visit me that day and I could just went in there and I was going underneath the surgery and I was thinking about them turkey necks.
He loves the turkey necks.
He loves fucking, yeah. I didn't know why people ate them turkey necks. Clarice brought me a plate of them turkey necks. They were good. They were real good. I understand it now. That's what he said. Okay.
I've never eaten turkey necks. I love
not a lot of meat on it. You got to pick through the bones.
I mean, I love turkey in general. I could eat a turkey sandwich every day.
Southerners can make anything taste good.
True.
And, they can't afford all this real
mostly by deep frying it.
Deep fry that shit.
Deep frying makes everything taste good. Probably
put
even
sugar on it.
Probably even a turd would taste good.
Put sugar on it.
Seriously.
Put peanuts in it. Like Coca-Cola, you put peanuts in it.
I've never done that. My grandma did that, though.
That's real super white trash.
It is, yeah.
Even that pack of peanuts. And you pour it in a glass of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Actually, Coca-Cola's high class, man. You're supposed to be drinking RC.
Yeah, RC Cola.
RC. Yeah.
Although my grandmother drank Coke her whole entire life. She never drank water. She never drank milk. Nothing like that.
Peach knee-high. And not talking about the new knee-high, the old knee-high.
The old knee-high.
The old knee-high, yeah. It was like peachy cream soda. It's like a cream soda with a slight peach flavor. It was fucking good.
Do they even sell it anymore?
They don't sell it anymore.
They
don't sell that original recipe
I used to
anymore.
drink the grape knee-high every now and then.
And it didn't have high fructose corn syrup. It was made with sugar.
With cane sugar.
Cane sugar, yeah.
Well, see, now that's one of the best things. What a time to be alive, you guys. Yeah. Is that now a lot of the soda companies have versions where it's like actual cane sugar. Like you can get Mexican Coke that actually still has cane sugar. It really does taste a lot better.
Mexican Coca-Cola is a lot better than American Coca-Cola.
It really is. That corn syrup is just a weird... I mean, I'm not a big soda fan anyway. Never have been since I was little. But there's something kind of
There's an old guy I used to work with.
Tasting.
There's an old man I used to work with who used to deep fry shit in motor oil back in the Depression era. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And he goes, we used to fry it in the motor oil, And they didn't have detergent in the motor oil back then, You could put it in your hair like pomade. And I was like, what? Oh yeah,
it was multi-purpose.
Yeah. You can even rub gasoline on your hands. Wash your clothes in gasoline, make them smell good.
Yeah, people did that. And
I couldn't believe it was what this old guy was telling me.
People used to wash their clothes in gasoline.
Back in the '90s, and he was in his '90s.
Yeah,
this old guy named Jimmy. One of the oldest fucking salesmen we had. Old Jimmy had run. He was a cool old dude in a certain way. He'd repeat himself a lot. But he said, I know that they never should have put that corn syrup in their sodas.
It's making everyone fat.
He goes, everybody got fat. He goes, we used to drink two, three 6-packs of Coca-Cola every day, never gain a pound.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe he's right now.
Well, the thing about corn syrup,
make you fucking fat.
Plus they put it in things that you don't expect it to be in, like bread.
I
know
knew
what
what
I
they were doing when they got rid of that sugar and they put that corn syrup in there. I said, that's what you feed cattle. You feed corn. You give
Yeah,
that
to
to the
fatten them
cattle.
up.
You make them fat, make them cattle fat. Everybody gonna get fat. And look, they all got fat. Y'all fat now. Y'all are fat. I ain't fat, but y'all are fat. That's the way Junior talk.
Well, that's the thing. See,
Yeah.
my grandmother, her whole life, like I said, she drank Coca-Cola. She ate Little Debbie's.
Yeah.
Her whole entire life, she ate whatever she wanted. She
Little
never,
Debbie's. I
She
think
never
people-
weighed more than 95 pounds her entire
People
life.
in England are like, what are Little Debbie's, by the way? Little Debbie's, you could get a whole pack
It's like
of
the
li-
white- it's like white trash cake.
Yeah. There's these little cakes. You can put up a picture of them. All these. It's a company that makes pies and cakes and shit, and they're this cheapest shit you could ever imagine. Like for $1.50, you get a huge pack of 12 of them.
They used to be 99 cents.
Like
when I was
99 cents for a whole 12
for a whole,
of them.
yeah, for like 12 or
Everything
18 of
basically
them.
boiled down to fucking vegetable shortening and sugar. That's
Yeah.
really what it was. That was the main. You could bake it and make it a cake, or you could make it. Remember the little zebra cakes?
Zebra cakes,
Yeah.
bitch. That was my jam.
Zebra cakes, and then you
I
had
loved it. And the donut sticks are
the
pretty
donut
good too.
sticks,
You
and
could
it
dip
was-
them in coffee. It was
Yeah.
delightful.
yeah, and they were they'd make you fat, and
My grandma loved the honey buns.
It had a slight-
That was not Little Debbie though. That
everything was
the
kind of waxy.
a little bit,
It
yeah.
kind of had a waxy flavor to them because the frosting was mostly wax.
Yeah,
And-
I like that though. It had some kind of. It was almost kind of like.
It was so bad it was
what's
good.
the shit they put on the outside of wedding cakes? Fondant.
Fondant, like
Yeah,
fondant.
it was kind of like fondant, where it's
Yeah.
like kind of hard, and then But like
They
I
were
said,
all individually wrapped, little moon pies and shit
Yeah.
like that.
everybody liked the oatmeal pies.
The oatmeal pies. It was two
It had-
oatmeal cookies
with
sandwiched with
marshmallow
marshmallow in the middle, and it was about that
They
big.
were soft oatmeal cookies.
Yeah, and it was a soft.
If you heated them in the microwave.
yeah, you put any of that stuff in the microwave. See, we're Southern. We're ex-white trash. We know how to.
I grew
take,
up in a trailer park, y'all.
Yeah. We know how to take bad shit and make it good. Vienna sausage.
Okay, now I never liked those.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
dad was
yeah.
into them though.
I liked them. They're all
He used to
right.
eat them with fucking mustard
Pig's
on them.
feet.
My grandmother loved those.
Pickle,
and
pickle
cal-
eggs.
and calves brains.
I didn't eat that.
She bought that the jar and
Head cheese.
white hominy.
Hominy. That's
She
good.
had
yeah.
cans of that shit.
Grits. Grits
Yeah.
with cheese.
I love
grits
grits.
with cheese and everything. Grits are in season there. The grit trees are in full bloom.
He makes really good grits,
Make
you
best
guys.
grits you can
He
make.
makes grits. He puts cheese, bacon,
Yeah.
and hard-boiled
And
eggs.
hard-boiled
in that
eggs and Creole seasoning.
shit. And Creole seasoning.
Yes.
They're delicious.
Tony's Creole Cajun seasoning.
Yeah.
actually.
But really, I mean, you eat a bowl of that, that's all you need to eat all day long.
It's half cheese.
Yeah, that's
Not
your
half
calorie.
cheese. It's
But
pretty-
no, what I was going to say about the Little Debbie's, the zebra cakes, which were my favorite ones. They also did seasonal variations, which were kind of the same. They had little Christmas trees for Christmas. They had little
Yeah.
pink hearts with white shit on them for
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. You know, did they have a Halloween one? I don't remember a Halloween one. But they, you know, they had those, and it was the same kind of thing. It was just like a white cake with like white frosting in the middle, and then it was like this fondant.
You
type
gotta put some
shit on the
pictures
outside.
of them in the video.
I should.
Put pictures of them.
That's funny. It's
It made
funny.
Hostess was high class compared to Little Debbie. Then they had
Yeah.
the little Nutter Butters. Remember those things?
Yeah, I remember.
They were
those.
kind of like a chocolate covered wafer cookie with peanut butter
With
in
peanut
there.
butter in it. It's
and
like,
if you
yeah.
don't enjoy peanut butter, if you're some kind of heathen foreigner that doesn't enjoy peanut butter, go ahead and unsubscribe.
Well, any kind
Go ahead and
of
unsubscribe.
nut butter.
Yes.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Cashew butter,
That's right.
almond butter.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Peanut butter and banana sandwiches. Peanut butter and banana.
I don't like bananas though.
Peanut butter and banana and honey on toast sandwiches with
Okay,
butter.
well,
with
yeah.
butter.
I'll have the peanut butter and the honey and the butter.
When you
But no
see
bananas.
all these southern fried rednecks dressed the way they're dressed in those bellies and shit, it's because they're eating what we're
Because
talking
they're
about.
eating that
They're-
kind of, which that's what I ate when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happens.
That's what happens.
But yeah. All right. So before we went off on that huge tangent,
Yeah, and before I'm into health food now.
you and your protein shakes.
Yeah. I can't eat like a southerner anymore. They all
No
die.
one can.
They're
They're
all
all dead
dying.
now.
They're all dying.
And that's why.
Yeah, my dad is just struggling with. He was raised on a bottle that not only had milk in it, but it also had bacon drippings in it. Because in those days, a mother gave their sons and all their kids pork fat, bacon drippings that
Put
came
hair
out
on
of their
your
damn
chest.
pants. Good, make you healthy,
Yeah.
of course.
It's good for you.
Bulk you up.
It's good for
If
you.
you're fat, then you're healthy.
That's was just a Southern
'Cause you're
thing.
not
That wasn't
starving.
Right, yeah. But Southern, my grandmother was like that too. And she
Yeah.
was like, like I said, she was thin as a rail her whole entire life, no matter how much cake she ate, which, I wish I'd gotten those genes, but I did not. But she would, like, if you were not eating, like, thousands and thousands of calories a day, she thought there was something the matter with you.
Yeah.
Are you sick? What's
Southerners
wrong with
tended
you?
towards fat, but I'll tell you one thing. Growing up, coming to the South every summer, because I didn't live in the summer wall to wall all the time, because only my dad was Southern, my mother wasn't.
Poser.
But I'll tell you, I'll tell you one thing though. Southern, when you talk about North America, Southern women were the cutest women in the United States. They were very good looking. A lot of these Hollywood actresses, we wouldn't know it, but they're Southern. They even go to schools to change the accent. Parker Posey is a girl from Mississippi. I know her. I grew up with her.
I love
Parker Posey, yeah.
She's
and she was she was one of the prettier girls in town. Her dad was Chris Posey. He owned the Chevrolet dealership down in Laurel. Okay, and her brother Chris, who's her twin brother, probably one of the better looking guys in town. But the South had really good looking people in it. I'm not sure it does anymore because a lot of people moved away.
Well, yeah,
A lot of
probably
people
all
moved
the
away.
best looking ones moved.
They all moved away.
Except me, I'm still here.
Yeah, Mississippi. Well, I was talking about most of that Mississippi. Mississippi actually is like mostly Mexican and Vietnamese now. They moved in because everybody else left.
Well, yeah.
Huge Vietnamese
Why would you
population.
stay in Mississippi? There's nothing to do.
There's nothing to do there. Yeah,
That's what I mean.
There's nothing to do there.
I mean, Florida kind of sucks too, but I mean, at least we live in Orlando where there's actually like shit happening.
Florida doesn't suck though. Florida's the new California.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
it is.
The thing that sucks about it is it's hot.
Yeah, that's all I'm reason.
It's hotter than shit.
We
and
gotta
there's
get back-
big, huge cockroaches.
We got to get back on.
You're the one that went off on the little
okay.
Debbie thing.
I'm drinking though.
All right. Well, so am I.
Okay.
All right. So here's the thing, and what we got started about with the turkey necks. And I'm sorry I got you off on that thing, but it's just I remembered it.
Turkey necks.
But this goes to show that shit you say when you have a head injury
Yeah.
can put other people's ass in a sling.
Oh,
and this is not cool because, okay, Rosie Court Amelia, which if you'll, remember, was one of the victims of the Axman of New Orleans who survived. She said, okay, Orlando Giordano and his son Frank are the perpetrators. They put them on trial and Orlando got life in prison because he was an old man, and Frank was sentenced to hang. He was 18 years old.
Damn.
So
and
then,
there's really no way they could have done it.
Right. And then so it's like they're in there for like 9 months or a year or something like that. And finally Rosie comes out and goes, "Oh, my bad. They didn't do it. I just said it to be an asshole pretty much." And they had to let them out.
She said it to be an asshole, or she said it because her head.
She said
had
that
a
it
head
was
injury.
that it was spite and jealousy.
Okay.
That's what she said.
Okay.
So I don't know, spite and jealousy for what? I don't know. I don't know if it was because they were a rival grocery store because it was
Maybe.
across the street because they ran a grocery too. So I don't know if she just like, oh, I'm gonna like ruin these people's lives. Awesome. I'm like, that's not cool, chick.
No.
Just like, please don't do that. I don't care how much you hate a person. Don't accuse them of murder. That's not cool. So the next thing that happened, only a few days after the attack on the Court Amelia family, in which, like I said, their toddler daughter Mary was killed, the Axman, or someone purporting to be the Axman, sent a letter to the Times-Picayune, Zodiac style, but pre-Zodiac. And it was dated March 13th. Now, much like Jack the Ripper, he said that it came from, quote-unquote, hell.
Yeah.
He addresses it to the esteemed mortals of New Orleans. Listen to this shit. This is so... I don't know. This is so edgelordy.
What are you talking about?
He says, this is what he says in the letter. I don't want to, I could read the whole thing, I guess. But he says, they've never caught me, and they never will.
Of course not.
They have never seen me, for I'm invisible,
Yeah, he's the Casper.
even as the ether that surrounds your earth.
Casper the ghost.
I'm not a human being,
There you go.
but a spirit and a demon from
Told
the
you.
hottest hell. Yeah, see,
Told
I told you. That's
Told
why
you.
I said, wait till we get
Yep.
to the letter part.
Yeah, he's Casper in the fuck
I
out
am
dude.
what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman.
Okay.
When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. That's an improper use of the word whom there,
All right.
Axeman, so I'm just saying. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe be smeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. Another improper use of whom. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they've conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they've been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but his satanic majesty.
Yep.
But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from harm.
Oh, shit.
Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am. But I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens and the worst, for I am in close relationship with the angel of death.
Okay, so he's having mercy on him.
Right. That's what I mean. This
Let
is
me
like
tell you
so...
something about this. Let me tell you about it.
yeah.
First of all, he's about 5'3" and he weighs about 90 pounds. He weighs about 100 pounds. Yeah. That's who that is. Likes to read a lot of books. He probably read Gaston Leroux.
Yeah.
You know, Phantom of the Opera.
This has given me a failed poet type of vibe.
Yeah. Because that's like some shit the Phantom would say. Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
And
This is a drama queen right
yeah.
here.
He's a hoe. He's a hoe.
Then he says, now he makes a specific threat. And like I said, I'm not sure if this is the guy that was actually doing the killings or just somebody that was doing it for shits and giggles. Now he says, now to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night, which would have been March 19th, I'm going to pass over New Orleans.
Pass over it like an angel.
Yeah. Or like Santa Claus, like
Santa
they said on
Claus.
BuzzFeed Unsolved, except an axe murderer.
NORAD's got him on radar.
Right.
There's an app for it.
Yeah. Tracking the Axman as
Tracking
he's
the
flying over
Axman.
New Orleans. Yeah. In my infinite mercy,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a little proposition to people. Here it is. I'm very fond of jazz music.
Okay.
And I swear by all the devils in the nether regions, his ass, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific
Gotta jazz
Tuesday
this
night,
shit
if
out,
there
bro.
be any, will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse. God, he's so pretentious.
That's him.
Hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee, I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fancy. Signed, the Axman.
That's him.
Yeah.
That's him.
Did anyone die? Now, this was published in the Times-Picayune newspaper in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And like I said,
A rag.
he said that March 19th, Tuesday night, if people didn't play jazz music, he was going to kill them. So everybody did. They said New Orleans that night. Everybody had jazz records playing. All the bands were playing. They stayed up all night. They had parties at their house where they were like...
Octoroon balls, everything.
That's what I mean. They had this whole big thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is actually part of the urban legend of the whole thing. There was like a song written about it later called The Axeman's Jazz. A whole bunch of short stories have been written about. Poppy C. Bright wrote one. There was a whole bunch of other ones that, kind of went into this kind of aspect of it. There were no murders that night, so I guess he was happy with. I guess he was happy with the amount of jazz that was
trying to get
then,
laid.
I suppose.
He's trying to get laid.
So, the next attack actually didn't happen for several more months. The next one didn't happen until August 10th, 1919, and this was Steve Boca, yet another Italian grocer. Now, he woke up in the middle of the night and saw a dark figure lurking over him in the darkness. He was hit in the head with a blunt side of an axe, they believe. Now, he actually woke up and he ran across the street to his neighbors for help without realizing that his head had been bashed in.
Dang.
So actually, they actually ended up saving him. He was all right. Now, same kind of thing. The back door had been, panel been chiseled out.
Damn.
Kind of shit. No, nothing taken, nothing.
Yeah.
Next attack was September 3rd, 1919. This was Sarah Lauman. She was 19 years old and she lived alone. So evidently she's laying there. She's, the person bashed her in the head. They knocked several of her teeth out. They found the bloody axe in the house, or in the front lawn rather. But she lived, but also could not remember what the person looked like. Everyone just remembered him as like a hulking black shadow. That's pretty much all they ever saw. The last person that was killed by the Axman was a man named Mike Pepitone, and this was an attack that happened on October 27th, 1919. Now, he was killed while his wife, and they had 6 kids, so I'm assuming that the 6 kids were also still in the house, but he was the only one that was attacked. His wife and kids were not harmed. So evidently, it's in the middle of the night. It's like 1 a.m. His wife hears screaming coming from the bedroom because she was sleeping in another room or on the couch or whatever. And she runs in there. Mike Pepitone, his head is bleeding everywhere. I believe he had been struck 18 times and died a little while later. And as far as they know, that was the last of the Axman of New Orleans murders. Now, the crazy thing about this is that really they have no fucking idea who this person was. They have no suspects, no nothing. Really, the only suspects that they have kind of happened later on. Probably the most famous one, like I said, some people have said, oh, it's the mafia. Some people said, oh, it wasn't all the same killer, blah, blah, blah. So, some people have even said it was a supernatural, it was a real demon, you know, which, that's dumb.
Whatever.
But one of the most famous kind of theories about it was put forward by the crime writer Colin Wilson. Now, he thinks that the Axeman was this dude named Joseph Mumphrey. The thing about Joseph Mumphrey is that urban legend says that the widow of Mike Pepitone, who was the last person to be killed by the Axeman, that she later moved out to Los Angeles and married another dude. And so her name was Esther, and apparently the person she married was named Albano, so she became Esther Albano. Now, like I said, it's an urban legend that later on in Los Angeles, Esther Albano shot and killed this person named Joseph Mumphrey because he was the Axeman and because he had killed her husband. However, when another crime writer looked into this, he could not find, I'm not saying it's not true, he could not find any police records of anyone of either name in Los Angeles at the time. There was no crime, relating to that time. There was no Esther Albano that had killed
So
Joseph
maybe he
Mumphrey
killed
at the time.
her husband so he could get a hold of her, and then he confessed it to her wife that I killed your husband in order to get you, and so she shot him.
Well, I don't think there was any of that going on. But because like I said, I think this is an urban legend.
Yeah, it's got to be, because no, I'm not buying that.
Because they couldn't really find anyone by that name in Los Angeles at the time.
It sounds too convenient.
Right. No one had been murdered. Nobody had been, and I don't really know, other than this urban legend, I don't think there's any other record of what happened to Mike Pepitone's widow after he was killed. Some people thought that this last attack was maybe mafia related, blah, 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 but I don't really know how much of that I believe. Now, there was actually an earlier crime that some people thought might have been related to the Axman murders, and this was another Italian couple. Their last name was Sciambra, and they were actually killed in the Lower Ninth Ward in May of 1912. However, they were shot. So the interesting thing, and this may be where the urban legend came from, the main suspect in this case, according to newspaper accounts at the time, was named Mumphrey or Mumphrey. They kept saying that last name. It's not an uncommon last name from New Orleans during that time period. And I don't think they ever convicted the person that did this. But because the MO was so different, I'm not sure if this was actually an Axeman crime. Like I said, he didn't usually shoot people. He usually used an axe or a straight razor. So I'm not sure if this is related or not. But this might be where the urban legend came from, where that name has been kind of connected with that. Other than that, that's pretty much as they know about the Axeman. Like I said, it's a very famous unsolved case in the United States, and there's been like tons and tons of fiction stories written about it. Like I said, it was on American Horror Story. There's been fucking songs written about it, all kind of shit. But the interesting thing, as famous as this case is, as I said, the case I'm going to talk about in the second part, the Mulatto Axe Murders, was way, way worse. Like way, way more victims. And it's almost forgotten. Like I said, I had never heard of it. So...
Got to take a break then?
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. So, all right. So that's the Axman of New Orleans case. And, we went off on a lot of tangents. Sorry about that. But,
it's only a few extra minutes.
Yeah, it's all right.
People don't care if it goes long, they said.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's fine. We get like that.
If you care
sometimes.
if it goes long, go ahead and unsub.
Right. Then piss off. But yeah, so I'm going to take...
I need another drink.
Yeah.
I'm running a Cool Con already.
I think I might need one too, actually.
Okay.
Although
right.
this last case is like kind of complicated, so maybe I shouldn't. But
I'll be able to hold it together. For the
I probably will. Do you think?
Yeah.
Don't fall over. As long as you
No,
don't fall out. Although, how funny would that be, you guys? If he just kept drinking, then he just like went and just fell out of the chair. That would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, you don't need to worry. Until
I'm
I
not-
start
yeah.
talking about turkey necks. Then we're-
Yeah, I have to stop like triggering him to go off into like these fucking directions.
yeah.
But yeah, so we're gonna take a break right now, and then I will come back and talk about the fascinating case of the Mulatto Axe Murders, also known as the Voodoo Axe Murders, which may be a case of a female serial killer if this was the actual person that did it. So we will be back in just a couple minutes to talk about that.
Okay, everybody. Jenny's got some new shirt designs up. 4 of them. Really good ones, too. Atlanta Ripper, Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm, the H.H. Holmes Murder Castle, and, of course, Demon Child, because man said he could. These are updated designs. I think they look really cool. Jenny did a great job on them. Were they fun making, Jenny?
They were very fun, and thank you very much. I think they came out very good.
Yeah, they get really good. They're very high-quality shirts. Jenny and I wear our own shirts at certain times when we're trying to put a spotlight on ourselves, and you can put a spotlight on yourselves. If you go ahead and pick up one of these shirts today, you guys are going to love them. Links in the description, www.zazzle.com at 13 o'clock.
Yeah, so go check out our store at www.zazzle.com/13 o'clock. We got these 4 cool new t-shirt designs, plus all our old ones if you'd rather get one of the old ones. But these ones are awesome, and you should check them out.
They're also available in women's cut, and they look really cute. Jenny's got some.
So thank you. Go check them out.
What you doing? What you doing? Yay! Why are you so funny?
The Faceless Villain, a collection of the eeriest unsolved murders of the 20th century, Volume 2, includes cases spanning the years from 1960 through 1979, featuring such infamous crimes as the triple homicide at Lake Bodom, the family massacre known as the Good Heart Murders, the serial killings of the Zodiac, Bible John, Jack the Stripper, and the Freeway Phantom, the slaughter of dozens of women and girls along the Highway of Tears and the Texas killing fields, and the mysterious death of suspected spy, the Isdal woman, along with dozens of other fascinating and horrifying accounts. Buy it now from Amazon in print, Kindle, or audiobook format. All right, we're back from the break on this axe murdery type of show.
Yeah, we actually took a walk.
We did in
Yeah.
between. You guys didn't see it because I edited the shit together all cleverly.
Yeah,
and
walk
stuff,
some of this
but-
cool con out.
Yeah,
Before I drink
we
some
were
more.
drunk walking. We're not that drunk. I only just had one, and I had some of this sparkling. What is this? Sparkling cranberry? Something?
Yeah,
There's
came
no
in
al-
like a champagne
Yeah,
bottle.
this is like no alcohol. There's no alcohol.
No,
in
it
this
just
one.
tastes good.
So
It was,
I'm just
it was
kind of
on
like
sale for
switching
the
off
holidays.
with. Yeah, we got
It's
it
on
for
sale.
Christmas, so it
Yeah.
would seem like we were having something alcoholic because we didn't want to drink in the middle of the day, even though
Yeah.
we do pretty much all the
It was a 1970s style show. You know what I mean? Like on Merv Griffin, where
If
celebrities
we
that
still
come
smoked, we'd be smoking.
smoking and drinking while they're on the show.
but
Yeah.
we're not smoking. Maybe we should get some cigars or something, or we could get some chocolate.
smoking.
ones.
Quit
Yeah,
smoking.
We did a long time ago.
Yeah.
We started vaping, and that made us quit.
So
smoking.
glad I stopped them fucking cigarettes. God damn. Didn't realize.
I know you smoked for like 30-something years.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Yeah. was a
Put it
long
down.
time.
Put it down. I feel a lot better.
Yeah. Well, of course you would,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad you did too, because I want you around for a while.
I haven't smoked about, what, 4 years? 3? I think 3.
Yeah, I think it's been more than 3 years.
More than 3?
Yeah, because I think we stopped in like October. 3
Yeah.
years ago,
I've totally
4 years.
recovered probably by now.
Yeah, your lungs probably look like a baby's lungs.
Oh, stop it.
Except larger.
Yeah.
All right, so this next case we're going to talk about, like I said, this was something, and me, a true crime junkie, I had never, ever heard of this case, and apparently a lot of other people haven't heard about it either, because I don't see a whole shit ton of stuff about this. This is kind of, like I said, an Atlanta Ripper situation where there were apparently a shit ton of victims, but because most of the victims were black or mixed race, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of media about it. There wasn't a lot of shit going on.
Couldn't sell newspapers on it.
I
probably
guess
back
not, but that's the thing. So
Back in those days, it was like 2 separate countries. What was happening with the black people, that was happening with them. The country wasn't worried about that. Only the white
Yeah.
people were the country.
yeah,
basically
I do
is
feel
what- the
like
way
that
to
was
look
kind
at
of
it.
like, and
Yeah.
honestly,
It's like that was happening in another country.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I found a website that had transcribed like a lot of the newspaper reports of these crimes, like from the time, and like the way they talk about the victims, it's just, It's so, like, I
Throwing
know.
shade on them.
Well, I know intellectually, like, that's
Yeah.
how they refer to people, but it's like they were talking about them like they were a different species
Yeah.
or something like that. It's like the weirdest fucking thing
Yeah, okay.
ever. And like I said, I grew up in a Southern family. I know, my grandparents kind of talked like this a little bit.
It was the times. You know what I
But-
mean? It was like those people were foreigners and they weren't part of America, so they didn't
Yeah,
worry
it's
about
like
it.
back in...
They have their own ways and let them handle it.
And
That
this was even
this-
like way before my grandparents were born. This was
Yeah.
like the very early 1900s. This is
Yep.
even before the Axman of New Orleans case. And this actually happened across Louisiana and Texas. They think there are somewhere between 35 and 49 victims of either the same person or purportedly a gang of killers. And we'll kind of get into that in a minute. Now, the first case that they think might have been related to this, although it's not usually put in like the canonical victims, but it's a pretty similar MO, happened in November of 1909. Again, this is a type of thing where it's somebody sneaking into a house where everyone is sleeping and axing everyone in the family to death. Usually an entire family, husband, wife, kids, sometimes just wife and kids. So that's kind of the kind of thing that's going on here. Again, nothing stolen, no other reason for them to be in there. So the first one was actually happened in Rain, Louisiana, like I said, in November 1909. This was a woman named Edna Opelousas and her 3 children, all killed with an axe. The first one that is canonical in the list actually didn't happen until a bit later. It was January 31st, 1911, and this happened, now is it Crowley or Crowley, Louisiana? You lived in Louisiana.
Crowley.
It's Crowley, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. So I was I just wanted to
Yeah.
check with you because I know you were from there. So
I'm from Mississippi, but I used to
well,
hang out
yeah,
there.
but you used to go to
Yeah.
Louisiana. You lived there for a while.
I know the area where my cousins are from there.
Yeah.
Born in there, yeah.
So this happened in Crowley, Louisiana. Again, this was a whole entire family. Walter Byers was the name of the father, and then he had a wife and a 6-year-old son. All of them killed with an axe. The killer left the bloody axe behind at the scene. Also left a bucket full of blood that they apparently took from the victims. So
Yeah.
there was that whole thing too. The next one that happened was a little less than a month later. It actually happened February 25th, 1911. This was the Andrus family, and this happened in Lafayette, Louisiana. This was, the dad's name was Alexandra Andrus, and his wife's name was Mimi. They had 2 kids, Joaquim, who was 3 years old, and Agnes, who was 11 months old. Now, these had all been, this is super creepy. So whoever had come in had axed them all, usually with a blunt end of an axe, just, fractured all their skulls or whatnot. Now, after the person killed them, they took the man and woman and posed them on the bed as though they were praying. Like in one one looked like they were praying and then the other one had their arm around the other one. So this is some weird ritualistic shit. This
Yeah.
isn't just kind of you know what I mean?
This is
somebody...
a black family?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they pretty much all were. Like I said, some of them were mixed race or were families where it was like a black man and a white woman,
Right, yeah.
or vice versa. You know what I mean? So it was the victims were pretty much all that.
Right.
So yeah, so there's that whole thing. Now after this particular crime, they did actually arrest a person named Garson Godfrey, and he had actually escaped from a lunatic asylum. And they found him at his mom's house. However, after they arrested him and they questioned him and they questioned other people, they actually arrested his mom too. I don't know why, for harboring a fugitive
aiding
or
and
something,
abetting, maybe.
because he had to actually escape from the
Right.
lunatic asylum. So so they arrested her and they asked around about him, but apparently he had been in another town and he had all these people saying that he had been there. So they eventually had to let him go. So they kind of made a connection between the previous crime and they're saying, well, this is probably the same person. But at this point, they have no idea who it is. Now, the next one that happened in March 23rd, 1911. Now, this happened in San Antonio, Texas, which, as you'll realize, is quite a long way away. But the reason they call these the Southern Pacific murders, sometimes I've seen them called that, is just because some of the murders took place along that railroad line, as though someone was going from town to town on this particular train and was killing people and was going back and forth. So this next one happened in San Antonio, Texas, again, as another family of 5. I don't want to say I love, but the newspapers at the time, they always say that the victims were brained with an
Brained,
axe.
yeah.
So,
Smashed in the head.
Smashed in the head, so
Brained,
that their
yeah.
brains were sticking out, I would
Yeah.
assume is what they mean. But they always use that verb.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So this was the next one. Now, this is weird because the newspapers at the time actually said that the couple's name was Alfred and Elizabeth Cassaway. But some other sources I saw said that the guy's name was Louis Cassaway. So I'm not sure entirely. Maybe that was his middle name. I don't really know. But yeah, so they had 3 kids. Again, they were all axed to death. Here was something creepy about this one. Now, again, these were all kind of arranged in a particular order. Now, either one of the victims or all of them had their faces covered. Now, that reminded me of, guess what? Villisca.
Yeah.
Because that's what they did in Villisca, didn't they? It's like they killed all the people with an axe.
Yeah.
He went back and smashed them again in the head to make sure they were dead. And then he covered up everyone's heads, like with blankets or curtains or coats.
He didn't
or
want to.
something
Evidently,
like that.
didn't want to see the faces, and he didn't
Maybe
want to
not.
see the grisly. Yeah, he was trying to cover up their identity. See what I mean?
Yeah.
To kind of dehumanize them to make himself feel better.
Yeah.
That way, it felt like they weren't there anymore.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So I don't know if this is like the same person, but
Probably a common reaction to being in
Maybe
an
it
old
is.
spooky house without any electricity under the candle lights.
yeah.
Probably pretty damn creepy to see the face of a corpse. So they just covered it up so you didn't have to look at it.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
I guess so. But I mean, this is like fucking creepy because one of the kids was a baby. He was 6 months old, also smashed in the head. They had a 3-year-old daughter, and they thought like she was found like with her head all bashed in. She was like across her mom's legs, like she had been trying to crawl away from the person that was in it. Was like, ugh, it's just horrifying. So again, they have no idea who this could possibly be. Now, on March 28th, which was 5 days later, they actually did make an arrest. But this arrest was for the first murder, which happened in Rayne, Louisiana. Now, this was a person named, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but this person was named Sosthene Guidry. And they arrested him in relation to the first murder, which had happened, which was the Edna...
Guidry.
Yeah.
Guidry is one of the most common
Yeah.
last names in Louisiana. Guidry. Yeah. It's like saying Boudreaux.
So they
Boudreaux.
arrested this guy, but apparently they couldn't, they didn't have enough evidence, and they never charged him with any of the other ones. And as far as I know, they let that guy go. Now, there was kind of like a several-month gap. Now, here's where things get weird, because in September of this same year, the police arrest this guy named Raymond Barnabutt, sometimes spelled Barnabet, could be Barnaby. I'm not really sure. It ends with a T. Because I know they have like a lot of French, like Creole names and stuff. Now,
Probably call him Barnaby.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this guy was apparently, they actually arrested him in connection with the murder of the Andrus family. So they bring him in. I'm not sure entirely. I think some sources have said that his mistress turned him in, or that people saw him in the vicinity of the house or whatever. But in any case, they brought him in and they started to kind of build a case against him. Now, it didn't take very long before it was only like a little more than a month later that they actually put him on trial. Now, this guy, Raymond Barnaby, he had several children. Now, one of them was named Clementine. It was his daughter. She was 18. And the other one had a name like, it started with a Z, like Zephyrim or something like that.
Yeah.
And they both testified at his trial that, yeah, our dad is totally the killer. He came home that night and said, I killed that whole damn family. And he had blood all over him, and don't let him out or he'll kill us. And that they were afraid of him, right? October 24th, 1911, he's convicted of those murders, just the Andrus family murders, not all of the ones that had taken place so far. Now, while he's in jail, November 26, 1911, there's another one. The Norbert Randall family. And this also happened in Lafayette, Louisiana. And this was 6 people.
Could the daughters have been lying?
Well, yeah, we're going to get to
Okay,
that.
all right.
See, well, like I said, there's a lot of controversy about this, and I couldn't find a great deal about it. I found a lot of transcripts of, like, some of the earliest, some of the newspaper accounts that came out at the time. But even back then, they weren't super sure about all of this. So, this is a really fascinating case, and I'm actually shocked that it's not better known. Especially, like I said, since Axman of New Orleans is super famous. Like, everybody's heard of that. And that was, 6 people dead and 6 people wounded.
Yeah.
This one is at least 35, if not way more. This is like, and its whole family
is a killing spree.
Just wiped out. Yeah. So this is the thing where this whole family, they lived in like a 3-room house. And their oldest kid, who was 10, she was their 10-year-old daughter, had actually been staying at a relative's house, and she came home and found her entire family had been slaughtered. Yeah, so, all of them dead in the bed.
I wonder
or
what that
whatever.
does to you.
That's what I mean. It's like, can you ever...
Damn.
Can you imagine? I
Freaking
can't.
out.
I can't imagine.
And
I can't imagine.
Run around the rooms and they're all dead, and you see,
and
pretty
killed
bad.
with an axe, like all their heads bashed in, and there's blood everywhere. It's like I can't imagine.
I imagine
how
you go into
fucking
shock. You're not
horrifying.
really sure exactly what you're seeing. You probably go into denial, and then you go run for help. It's probably something kind of like that.
I would hope so, but I imagine. I mean, how can you ever? You can't ever unsee that.
Yeah.
Even if you tried to forget about it, like in your regular life, it would keep coming back, like in your fucking nightmares and shit. Ugh. I hope I never see anything like that in my whole entire life. I mean,
I've seen the ability to recover, though. We'll see.
They do, but so that's sad that like the 10-year-old girl, she found her entire family had been axed to death. Now, at this point, like I said, now they're like, okay, so Raymond Barnaby is in jail still. So they're like, okay, well, obviously he didn't do this one. However, his daughter Clementine is a little weird. So at this point, they arrested her as well. Now, at first, she said, no, I didn't have anything to do with it. It was my dad, blah, de blah. So, but they keep her in custody because they think there's something a little fishy about her. Now, a few days later, she's on the stand like at a hearing, and she confesses. At first, she confessed to 17 murders. That was the first thing she confessed to. Now, we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but so, But now, while she and her dad were still in custody, there was another family murder that it was exactly the same. And that happened on January 18th, 1912. And this was the Warner family. This also happened in Crowley, Louisiana. This was actually a single mother. Her name was Marie Warner. And she had 3 kids named Pearl, who was 9, Gary, who was 7, and Harriet, who was 5. This is fucking horrifying. So I read the original newspaper account of this, and it says, and I quote, do not get mad at me, this is a quote from 1912, another horrible crime in the Coontown section of the city. And I was just reading that going, really?
That wouldn't even consider racist.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It wasn't.
No.
And it's just it's funny because they can't ever just say the victim. They always said the name, comma, a Negro, comma. That's they can never
differentiate. Don't worry, it's not a white person.
Right. That's exactly
They're
what
trying to
it was
reassure you.
like.
Don't worry, reader. This is not a white person.
I know.
This is happening over there in their country. That's
like I said, it's intellectually I know, but it's it's fucking weird to
It was the
read
culture and the times. It was another It was another time.
It really was, so long ago. But so same kind of thing. This entire family killed with an axe, and they think that the killer came in the back door, either broke in or came in and it was unlocked. So at this point, like I said, they still don't know because their 2 main suspects are in custody when this happened. Now, at this stage, January, the day after that particular crime, they had found some clothing in the Barnaby household that they thought belonged to Clementine, the 18-year-old girl. It was in a closet it was not in her bedroom, but it was in an adjacent bedroom. Now, I've seen different sources say it was either a woman's suit of clothes or a man's suit of clothes, so I'm not sure which one is which one is which, but they found the suit of clothes, and apparently it had blood and brains all over it. Now, differing sources say differing things. At first, one of the sources said that Clementine said that her dad had killed all the people and that he had wiped the blood on those clothes. Another source said that she told everyone that was her blood.
How old was she again?
18.
Old enough to know better.
18. So the day after the Warner family was killed, the chemist who had been examining this clothing that had the blood on it, he determined that the blood was, belonged to the victims and not to Clementine. So at this stage, Clementine gets charged with the murder of the Randall family.
Now,
the wife and the wife and the 4 children.
What do we know about this Clementine girl? I mean,
Not a lot, honestly.
she sounds like she might have a slight mental problem.
Well, see, like I said, that's the interesting thing about this case is because, one, it was so long ago. 2, I'm not sure if she actually did do some of the crimes, or because there was so much shit surrounding, like, oh, she's in a voodoo cult, she was a voodoo priestess.
Is this fake news?
That's what I mean. And a lot of the stuff that came out afterward could have been manufactured.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because think of the shit that was going on at the time.
Who kills people and then just, automatically fesses up to it so easily? And
Right.
and does the 18-year-old girl actually have the means to wipe out whole families?
See, that's what kind of makes me, and
especially back in the early 1900s, when an 18-year-old girl probably weighed 80 to 90 pounds.
That's what kind of makes me but that's what made this case so interesting to me. Because here's the thing: when I was researching this case, because someone recommended it to me and they said, Mulatto Axe Murders, so I searched for that and I found a couple things, and then I didn't even realize, because a lot of the things that were written about it were like, oh, they were never solved, who knows who did it. But then the more I looked, they're like, oh, well, they were done by this girl named Clementine, and that she was a serial killer. She's even like on the female serial killer list or whatever, and she had all these victims. But the more I look into it, the more I'm like, did she really do it though? Or if she did, she for sure did not act alone, because some of the family murders took place while she was in jail and while her dad was in jail.
Yeah,
so it couldn't have been just her. If indeed she did any of them. And these clothes that she said belonged to her, yes, they did have blood and brain matter on them, evidently, according to the chemist. But does that necessarily mean, that may have meant
Was there any physical evidence to link her to these cases?
Well, other than that blood on her clothes. She said the clothes were hers. And she made a full confession later, but confessions...
Yeah, and like, what do we have of this confession? Does the confession...
Well, I have it here.
But does the confession confirm physical evidence at places where she wouldn't have, couldn't have accessed? In other words, like, if a person, the real killer always knows things that the public doesn't.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Is there any of that in the confession?
That I'm not sure, because... Like I said, it's so hard to say.
You got to have the details,
right? Because a lot
of
of the stuff that she said, like, she explained like why she did what she did, and she explained like what happened in each particular place, but the details of it were not. They were specific, but they weren't specific enough that she couldn't have got it from the paper
and made up a story to fit what she read in the paper.
So did she? I'm not saying she didn't do it. I'm just saying that...
What kind of reasons did she give for doing
Well,
this?
I'll get to that in a little bit. Because like I said, at this point, like I said, the chemist says,
okay, they got nuts. They got crazy people that can make all kinds of confessions.
That's what I mean. That's why you can't ever...
This is kind of sounding very suspicious to me. This sounds kind of like what they would call a developmentally delayed person with some kind of mental problems.
Which she may well have been,
attention seeking, and maybe being executed was a way out of some kind of family misery. She didn't like the father, evidently.
Or, alternately, and this has happened a few times too, I'm not sure if she was literate or, or anything like that. So they might have written the confession, said, hey, sign this. And she'd have been like, okay, sign whatever. Or they might have beat it out of her. Who knows?
That area, and at that time, she probably was illiterate. Most people were in the South.
That's what I was thinking.
In the very early 1900s. Especially if you were of the working socioeconomic class. Didn't matter if you were black or white. A lot of them didn't read or write.
Yeah.
I think middle class did.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of people, even, when I was a boy visiting the South, I remember adults that were illiterate.
Yeah.
And they were from, the generation before me.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think it's only very recently
Yeah.
that, literacy is like,
What's-
95, 98%.
And what's funny is that, one of the ones that I can think of, was a friend of the family, and he ran a whole business and couldn't read or write and made a lot of money.
Well, there's
And
ways
didn't
to
learn
get
how
around it.
Yeah, a lot of he had secretaries doing it all for him.
Yeah, there's
All
ways to
right.
get around it.
And now he's an old man now, and he did eventually learn to read and write.
Yeah.
But that was. Not
I
until he
admire
was-
people that do that when they're
Yeah.
older because
Yeah, and he-
everything's harder to learn. When
Yeah, he
you're
did it
older.
later on, but he learned to read and write by the time he was in his mid-30s,
Yeah.
and I was a little boy at that time. But yeah,
Yeah. But so here's another thing. So Clementine and her dad Raymond are still in jail at this point. But then there was another one. January 20th, 1912. This was the Broussard family. This happened in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So this was Felix Broussard, his wife, and their 3 children. So obviously, Clementine or her dad didn't do that one because they were still in prison. Now at this one, the killer left a note. Some sources say in blood. Most of them, the newspapers at the time said they left it in pencil. It was actually a quote from a version of Psalm 9:12, and it said, "When he maketh the inquisition for blood, he forgetteth not the cry of the humble." And it was signed the Human Five, which means they didn't know what it meant. So at this point, the press and the police are starting to call this. They're like, well, we think that, Clementine and her dad are part of this larger group, which they started calling the Human Five Gang, because they said, all of these family murders, they kind of had the perception that they were all 5 victims and that it was some kind of sacrificial or some kind of ritualistic sort of thing, even though some of them are 4, some of them were 6. It wasn't always 5, but it did seem like that was the average. So they were kind of like talking about that. Now, I have seen some sources say that at this particular murder, the children that were murdered had little pieces of wood, like little planks of wood, like put between their fingers, like spreading their fingers out like that. If you're watching the video, you can see what I'm doing. But, and I've seen little drawings of it that were done. Not every source has this, but I have seen some sources where that. So that was, again, another kind of thing where maybe this was some kind of like, 5, some kind of ritualistic significance or some kind of black hand or whatever that type of thing is.
it sounds far-fetched to me.
It does, yeah. So, but like I said, there was a whole, since these were, African Americans, they were, I believe she just spoke like Creole or French Creole. So there was a whole voodoo thing happening. So it was, good to sell papers. So I'm not really sure how involved with any of that they
Sounds
were.
like a combination of cops trying to come up with an explanation and
Yeah.
a bunch of newspapers trying to sell copies of newspapers. If
Yeah.
you ask me, I don't know. I need to hear more. I'd have to see the evidence firsthand,
Right. Now,
especially all the confessions. But I have a feeling that those confessions are kind of bogus.
well, like I said, I found like her pretty much entire confession, which they published in the paper. So I'll read a little
But
bit
was
of
that real?
That's what I
Back in
mean.
those days, our paper could print anything.
That's what I mean. They could have printed anything. Like I
Yeah.
said, could she even read it? Did they just
Yeah.
write something and she was like, sure, whatever?
Especially Louisiana, New Orleans area, South Louisiana. I mean, to this day, you say Louisiana justice, people kind of laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very corrupt. It was always very corrupt.
Now, right around the time that the Broussard family was murdered, they also arrested this other guy who was a pastor, and his name was King Harris. Now, they're not sure like what his involvement was. He had this kind of his little congregation. Now, the story went that there was an offshoot of his congregation that was called like the Church of Sacrifice or the Sacrifice Church, and they were into voodoo and they were like into human sacrifice and shit like that. Now, he claims he didn't know anything about that. I kind of feel like what might have happened is that I think the church that he was pastor of was called like Christ Sanctified or Christ Sanctity or something like that.
Yeah, it's
and
gonna
I
be
think
something
people
Catholic.
sanctified, sacrifice kind of
Sacrifice,
sound the same.
You could sell some newspapers.
Right. So I
Yeah.
kind of feel like there was a little bit of that shit going on, like a little bit of
Yeah.
exaggeration. But they did arrest him in, connection with some of the murders, but he, insisted that he's like, the Randall family had been at one of his sermons like one night or like a night before they were killed or something like that. But other than that, he didn't know anything
To me,
about
it sounds like the police are going on a witch hunt.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like that. They also, a few days later, they arrested this other woman named Eliza Richards. They didn't really say why they wanted her, like, in relation. They thought she was another member of this purported voodoo gang or whatever it was. But they put her in this particular prison. They said, we put her over here because we thought if we put her in prison in Crowley, then people would, because there was so much freaking out about the crimes, that people would kill her or something, or lynch her or whatever. So there was that. I don't know whatever happened with that woman, but she was also arrested. There was also, and over the next couple months, like the paper started reporting, like, obviously families like in this parts of Louisiana and parts of Texas where this was happening, black families were like posting guards in front of their house. They were all arming themselves. They were all kind of keeping a neighborhood watch, as you would, because they were afraid,
In the police and the government, state and federal government and the police didn't have the power then that they have today.
Right.
They just didn't have the ability, the manpower, nothing. And they didn't really even feel that they kind of had the responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, people had to take care of themselves back then. That's what posses were all about. Sheriff would come and go, okay, you guys, come on, help me go get this guy. It was like mob justice.
Yeah.
And that's just, mob defense.
Yeah.
So a lot of the cops that are probably involved in this are probably trying to figure out who's killing all these black people.
Yeah.
I mean, they just didn't let people kill each other. They would try to stop
Yeah.
it. So, it wasn't a thing about race. They would try to stop it. Just didn't have the ability and the power to do so.
Right.
So kicking up dust and making sensational news articles and having cops on the scene, part of that was to encourage the people to hunt down and figure out who it was that was killing them.
Yeah, so the police wouldn't have to.
So the police wouldn't have to do it. You know what I mean?
Why don't you guys?
Well, the police just didn't have the power.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you saw that, like I said, I saw that when I was reading, contemporary police articles about the Atlanta Ripper crimes.
Yeah.
They were all but saying outright in the articles, it's like, wow, we really wish those black people would step up and do something about this shit in their neighborhoods. Like,
right,
so
and find who this is and kill them.
Right, they
basically.
didn't say that outright, but it was
That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, it was implicit.
Just the investigative
like,
techniques weren't... Basically what they were saying is, if you know who this is, kill them.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they didn't come out and say it, but that's clearly what they were implying.
That's what they meant.
And it was the same kind of thing here. And like I said, a lot of neighborhoods, they were all arming themselves and shit like that. Now, there was actually another one on February 23rd, 1912. This was the Dove family. Hattie Dove, who was 30, she was the mother. And she had some kids. Ernest was her son, who was 14 years old. She had a son named Ethel, who was 16, and also had a daughter named Jessie Quirk, who was 18, who was actually married, but her husband, she had broken up with her husband. The mother had also broken up with her husband. So same kind of thing. They were all killed with an axe. The axe was found at the house, just like in the Axman of New Orleans. They would leave them behind. They also found like a cloth that had like bloody handprints on it, like as though the murderer had wiped their hands off. They found that the axe that had been used actually belonged to a guy that lived only 2 blocks away. But it was weird because I feel like the person, they said the murderer had stolen the axe from that guy's house and then killed the people, but then like left another axe, like he switched the axes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he left another axe, at that house. So now April 2nd, 1912, Clementine Barnabet or Barnaby or however you pronounce
Probably
it.
Barnaby.
She makes a confession, quote unquote, that is printed in the paper. She says what her name is. She says, I was born and partly raised near the town of St. Martinville, Louisiana. Moved to Lafayette about 3 years ago when I began to lead a life of degradation.
Okay.
Which, would you
Prostitute.
say that? I don't know. I guess.
Prostitute, yeah.
I have never been married. That was the next thing.
Yeah.
It was while in the company of 2 other women and 2 men while in New Iberia, Louisiana, that we met an old Negro who told us that he could sell us canjas or candias, were like hoodoos, like little, voodoo things, meaning with which we could do as we pleased and we would never be detected. and would be protected from the hands of the law by the mere fact of them being in our possession. We bought them and paid $3 each for them and left New Iberia the same night, returning to Lafayette. When we began to plan our actions, we had not yet decided on committing any murders, but it was while we were discussing our future plans that the question came up as to whether we could kill and be protected by the hoodoos. So that's her story, is that they had bought, and I read this in
Magical
another source.
protection.
Yeah, that she had bought these things from a guy purportedly named Justin Thibodeau. He actually said, I have no idea what you're talking about. He was like a root magic kind of guy. Like, he was kind of the guy where you had a wart and you'd go buy some preparation from him and your wart would go away. But she said, we bought these from him, and he said that we could do whatever we wanted and we were protected. No one would see us. The law wouldn't catch us.
I'm going to call bullshit.
So we decided we were going to try that out.
She's making that up.
That's what I mean. This sounds very far-fetched.
It sounds fishy. She's making that up.
Yeah.
People didn't think that way even in the early 1900s.
Yeah, why would you even think? Why would that even occur to you?
This is a young girl. This is a young girl casting.
Yeah, she's 18.
This is a young girl casting shade on everybody she knows and doesn't like.
I guess
That's
so.
It is,
Yeah. So
it's for
yeah.
attention.
So that's what she says. So she says there's a whole gang and they got these things and they said, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny to try these out? Let's go and bust into people's houses and axe an entire family to death and see if we get caught, to see if these fucking work."
I think the cops.
That was her whole thing.
I think the cops are on a goose chase here.
Now, here's the interesting thing, though. The next part of her confession that was printed in the paper, she says, it was sometime during the year 1910, I believe in the fall, that I went to Rayne, Louisiana, with my companions, and we drew lots to know who would make the first attempt of the hoodoos in committing murders. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that she says, during the year 1910, I believe in the fall. Now, if she's talking about the first murders that took place in Rayne, that wasn't fall 1910, that was fall 1909.
Okay.
So there's a contradiction right there.
Yeah.
So
is she lying or does she just make?
That's what I mean. So I'm not sure if she mixed something up, but that's a contradiction.
I just got a weird feeling about these kind of confessions. I think she's bullshitting. I don't think she's killed
It sounds
anybody.
like a crazy story.
It sounds like she's ranting. She's out of her head.
It sounds like a crazy story. Now she basically says, I drew the short straw. You know, that's not exactly what she said, but that's what she meant. The lot fell to me. Accordingly, I got to work that night. I went to my sister, who lived in Rayne, Louisiana, near the railroad depot. Later during the night, went up to town disguised as a man and securing an axe in a yard near the cabin where I killed the mother and 4 children. She said she picked the house because there were simply lights on in the house, and so that was the one she was attracted to. On entering the house, I struck the woman on the right temple and killed her instantly. One of the children was awakened by the noise, and before he could raise his head from the pillow, I struck him with a blow somewhere near the left ear. Then I struck the other 2. I left the man's clothes, which I wore in the house, and left the house in woman's clothes, returned to my sister's house, and later during the same night, I boarded a night train for Lafayette, arriving there about midnight. It was about 9 when I killed him.
Now, does the evidence match the story?
See, I don't know, because that first crime, like I said, she's about a year off. First of all, because that first crime, if that was her, that happened a year before she said it.
Because she gave the order in which she killed him, also the places where she struck him.
Yeah.
And what she was wearing in the clothes change. I'd like to know if that's
See,
really...
I never read that the first crime... I haven't read much about that first crime, because usually, like I said, they don't really talk about that one that much.
Right.
So I don't know if they found, like I said, a bloody man's clothes in the house or not. I never saw anything about that. So I don't know. She might be just talking out her ass.
Yeah, that's... No one else has investigated it, as far as you know.
Like I said, there's not a lot
It's too old.
There's not a lot of shit about this.
Right.
I was shocked at like how little. It's kind of like the Atlanta Ripper case. I was shocked at like how little. There's not even a book about this one. I think there's like, I think there was some like a chapter in a book about like crime in Louisiana.
Yeah.
But there's not a whole book about it. I mean, at least Atlanta Ripper had one whole book about it. This one doesn't.
Case like this, you might want to research. Maybe you can write a book about this.
I know this is fascinating,
try
but
to
I didn't
find
know
out.
anything about it.
Do the research. It's easy to go there. I know all these places. I could take you there.
Yeah, true. He used to live there.
Yeah, we could check court records and see if they still exist on any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But you'd have to find out if these confessions match the evidence, and whether there were attorneys at the time that brought up, her story matches the evidence.
Right.
You have to find that.
The thing about it, though, is that even at the time, like, as long as this confession is, and she keeps saying there's other people in her gang, including her sister, and, you know, that she was the one that got tasked with going to check out these hoodoos to see if they worked and, like, protected her and stuff. And she did say, yeah, we went in this house in this city and killed these people, and I killed them in this order and stuff. But like I said, a lot of it was in the papers at the time.
She could have read it.
She could have just read it in the papers and just repeated it. Or like I said, the cops could have written it and she just signed it or whatever. So, I'm not real sure. And the thing about it is that even at the time, even in the newspapers at the time in 1912, it said police are not sure about the, veracity of her confession because there were some contradictory things in there. Like I said, she got some of the dates wrong.
They were smelling bullshit too. It sounds like a fanciful tale.
Yeah, and she named accomplices that they could never find, like that didn't seem to exist.
This girl's tripping.
And like I said, a lot of the murders of the families happened while both she and her father and her brother, they eventually put her brother in jail too, were in jail.
Okay.
So obviously they couldn't have done it.
Right.
So the fact of them, was there a voodoo gang called the Human Five gang, as they were calling them? Was this a voodoo gang?
This is a neglected young girl trying to grandstand and become important. That's what it is.
Yeah, like I said, it sounds like a crazy story. And like I said, they're not even sure that this sacrifice church or whatever, like this offshoot church that they were supposedly a part of and like all these people knew, they're not even sure if that existed. They're just saying, yeah, she might have said that, but like everybody that was supposedly involved in it were like, we don't know what you're talking about.
Sacrifice church, that sounds like bullshit. That's Catholic territory. It'd be something like Church of the Holy Sacrament. Or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel like this is some newspaper.
Our Lady of the Lilies Church. It'd be shit. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that they would have.
I kind of feel like a lot of this is kind of
Holy Heart Sacrament.
I mean, obviously somebody did this shit, right? Obviously somebody broke into these people's houses and axed all these people to death.
Probably multiple offenders.
What? Yeah, it's like, was it her? I don't know. I mean, obviously she didn't do all of them.
I kind of think there's multiple offenders. It comes up in the paper, and somebody else goes, oh, well, somebody's doing that, and I can do it too. And then they go do it, and it becomes kind of like a thing. You have 4 or 5 guys out there doing these home invasions and smashing people. Smashing people they don't like. Maybe
well, like I said, and we talked about that.
They'll think the killer did it.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit with the Axman of New Orleans case, where it's kind of like if you get 1 or 2 crimes that are similar, that are sensational enough,
you got other guys jumping on board.
You're going to get other people going, hey, what a good idea. I'm going to do that shit too, because, people are weird like that.
Well, they're going after people that they have personal vendettas against.
Right, and they'll just make it look like
they'll think the killer did it.
Right.
So people aren't that dumb.
Yeah.
People might be mean. They might be crazy, but they're not dumb.
So after this big, long confession, and like I said, even when the confession was printed in the paper, the last paragraph of the after the confession said, police are not sure how seriously to take this because there are some contradictory statements, blah, blah, blah. So, like I said, they're not entirely sure. Now, and also it should be noted that first, when her father was arrested, she pretty much said, yeah, my dad did all that shit.
Sounds like she just had a vendetta against her dad.
Maybe. Because like I said, he was in jail. He was in jail before she was. So obviously,
how much you want to bet sexual abuse?
It wouldn't shock me, honestly. Yeah, there might have been some fucked up shit going on.
That might tie in with kind of like a neglected personality who wants to feel important.
Yeah. So at this stage, April 4th, 1912, there's a grand jury indictment. And they're... at this stage, I think they're accusing her of 6 murders, and she's confessed to, I'm not sure at this stage, but I think 35. Initially, she confessed to 17, but then the more they talked to her, like, it went up to like 30.
I'm not buying.
Now, like, there were about 40 murders during this time, so it's not like she was just pulling murders out of her ass. They were happening.
Yeah, she didn't do it, though.
But I don't know if it was her.
What's the physical description on this girl? An 18-year-old girl
I don't know. I've only
seen
one picture of her, and it's just her face.
An 18-year-old girl does not usually have the physical prowess to pull off a long string of homicides like this and get away with it.
And how often does an 18-year-old girl do shit like that?
Eventually, somebody of that description would run into somebody that she would not be able to handle.
Yeah, that they would just kick her ass.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, other than, maybe Lizzie Borden, which they don't even know if she did that shit or not, how often does a fucking girl do this kind of shit? Hardly ever. Hardly ever.
She doesn't... Yeah,
it's not a girl type
women
of thing
don't blow that way.
That's in
They don't
general.
blow up that way. In general.
There's a small percentage that do.
Yeah.
But in general, if women are going to kill people, and I think I mentioned this on our last true crime show, if women are going to kill people, they usually poison you, or they'll smother you, or they'll do it in a less messy,
The angel of death type chicks.
and a less obvious way.
Angel of death type women.
It's easier to not
killing
get caught.
patients, Munchausen by proxy, killing off kids, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're not going to go into a house and like axe a
There's
bunch of people.
an occasional Eileen Wuornos type, but this ain't it.
And honestly,
this here, I'm thinking that what this was a crime wave.
Yeah.
And I think it was multiple offenders.
It may well have been.
With differing motives.
Yeah.
Some of them were trying to throw first-degree murders for profit into the heap of, this is the killer doing it.
Yeah.
But really, I just don't want to pay my bill. Because, you owe money or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might owe somebody money and he says, well, I'll just kill him.
Yeah.
And they'll think that the fucking killer did it.
So at this point, they have Clementine, and they're like, okay, well, we're accusing her of 6 murders, but we're not going to arraign her for trial yet because we're going to wait and see if there's more accomplices or if there's more evidence or whatever. So she's kind of just hanging out in jail. Meanwhile, they also arrested her half-sister Pauline, who protests. She's like, I don't really even know her, so what the fuck? Why are you even arresting me? They also arrested...
She's just naming people she don't like.
Right, that's what I mean. It's like a witch hunt type of thing.
Yeah.
And they were probably encouraging her.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, who else is? And she's probably just pulling names out of her butt because she was, They also arrested this other woman named Valina Mabry, who Clementine had named, as being an accomplice.
She had
in
a
the
nice
murders.
rack.
I guess. But Valina, obviously, she said, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't have anything to do with this.
Yeah, she's making shit up.
Now, April 13th, 1912, while all these people are in prison, there was another one in San Antonio.
Cool.
This was the family of William Burton, and this was 5 people. It was his wife and 2 children and a family friend named Leon Evers. Their heads had all been crushed in with an axe. Now, a little bit different in this one, the male victims actually had knives plunged through their bodies and were left there, which was kind of a new detail. So whether this was the same killer or not, I'm not really sure. But, so like I said, at this point, the cops are kind of still running with this sacrifice church thing. Like I said, the media are blowing it out of the water. It's like, oh, she's a voodoo priestess and she has this gang.
It's going the satanic panic route.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of like I said, at the end of this killing spree, and like I said, there was a fuck ton of axe murders in the early part of the 20th century, which is amazing. Just so many axe murders. But this particular run was 40 people.
Yeah.
Were they all the same person? Don't know. They were all very similar, but axe murders tended to look kind of similar to one another, so it might not have been. Now, the fact that none of them were robberies or anything like that kind of gives you pause and shit like that, but I don't know.
I just got a weird feeling that this became a fad.
Yeah, possibly.
It started showing up a lot in the newspapers the way a satanic panic story.
Yeah.
So anyone out there that had any kind of grudge or wanted to get rid of somebody else, you could do this. You could do a homicide that matched that pattern and hope that you could piggyback it in on that phenomenon. Oh, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
That old satanic church did it. You know what I mean? It's that kind of stuff.
I kind of feel like that.
But it might have been guys not wanting to pay child support or alimony or whatever. It might have been guys that wanted to get rid of wives. It might have been somebody who wanted to get rid of neighbors or get rid of people that they owed money to. Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a convenient scapegoat.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a serial killer running around. I'm going to get in on that
Yeah,
action.
I'm going to
get
take
rid
them
of
out and get
somebody
rid of
that I
them.
didn't. Yeah. Now, here's something. Now, I'm not sure how true this is, but I did read in one source that the panic surrounding all of these murders, shortly after the Burton murders, the Burton family murders, in Victoria, Texas, apparently there was a guy named Ernest Smothers, and he, they had a lot of the families had armed themselves and were posting guards outside their house or whatever. So he's guarding his family house. Now, one of his friends drops by to make sure his family is okay and makes the mistake of just coming in without knocking and gets shot dead by his friend. Yeah. Now, the creepy thing too is that somebody else, another neighbor, is like coming by and he sees somebody on the porch and he's like, oh shit. And he starts running down the street back to his house because he sees the dead person. Somebody else sees that guy and he's like, hey, there's the Axman, and shoots that guy.
Damn.
So I don't know how true that is, but I've seen that.
It became a panic.
Right. So I've seen that in a couple sources where it's like everybody was armed and everyone was paranoid. And it's like, you know, you'd see a person running the street. You didn't know who it was. You would just shoot and
adding
ask
credence
questions
to my theory, because if everybody was arming themselves, then it was a panic, which meant that there'd be a lot of people in the criminal world, or just people who want to get
advantage of that
trying to take advantage of that shit.
And like I said, you know, it's understandable that it was a panic. Like I said, it was at least 40 murders.
Right.
So it's not like it was nothing. Like they weren't scared of nothing. There was some bad shit going on. So
it became a fad, like I was saying.
Right,
you know,
you
like the
couldn't
hula
blame
hoop.
them.
Well, it's going to kill that whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, April 26th, they actually arrested another guy named Mac Thomas, and also Clementine's brother, whose name is Zephyrin, I just remembered. They were also arrested and put in jail because they were supposedly part of this Human Five gang or whatever it was.
Yeah.
May 17th, 1912, the sheriff got a weird letter, and it was from somebody who is not named. They just say a Negro, as they say,
because that was all that mattered back in those days. That's what I mean.
It's like they couldn't just.
Oh,
say
by the way, a Negro came by and told us
someone's name. A lot of times they didn't even put their names.
Man, the old South was a fucking trip, man. They were fucking. I know that some people
family
don't take this shit too seriously. If you're out there listening, don't take this shit. It was the absurdity of the times.
We can laugh now because
we can laugh
they
now.
don't,
Yeah, that's it's over.
That's fucked up.
Yeah,
that's fucked up. You get like, I'd be really sad if like I got killed with an axe and then like in the paper everyone was like
a Caucasian.
That would be God.
No,
like,
a cracker.
Yeah, it's so dehumanizing.
Cracker was killed with.
You're like not even a person.
But the thing is, though, there might be, you know, you could hang out with some like black nationalists, and that's how they would write it down, and that's kind of like the way it was. The papers,
I feel like they should do that until it balances out.
Yeah, the papers were not actually written for black people to be reading them. The audience was the white people, so they were always taking it from that point of view. By the way, black people got killed,
so don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It was just black people.
Nothing for you to worry about.
That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I feel like they do it now, but they're sneakier about it. Like they use euphemisms.
What, in the papers? I don't know. I didn't know newspapers still existed.
Yeah, they kind of do.
Okay.
Well, you know, and online and shit. But yeah, so they get this letter. It's written in pencil. They said it was badly written. I don't know what that means exactly. But this person, whoever it was, allegedly has confessed to the crimes and said, oh, I'm in this gang and we have a leader and he's the one that selects the victims and we all go out and do his bidding or whatever. The police didn't really take it all that seriously. They were just like, whatever, we're just going to keep that just in case. They also arrested another guy in June of 1912 who was another preacher, and his name was J.S. Anderson, or that's what his alias was. They arrested him because he was kind of like a snake oil salesman. Like he'd go from town to town, like selling what he called paradise pills. $10 a pill. $10 in 1912. That's like $1,000 fucking dollars, right? Well, probably not, but it was a lot, right?
Cocaine.
Yeah, it must have been. So, and they thought that he had been like in the towns where the murders took place, like around that time, like that was on his travel routes. They thought that was a little suspicious. They found out that his real name was S.W. Goodman, and he'd actually been a Baptist preacher, a former Baptist preacher in San Antonio, and he had escaped from a penitentiary in Huntsville. He had only had a 4-year sentence. I'm not sure it was for, but he had escaped from prison, and then he had kind of been going around selling
It's back when you
oil.
could run from a prison.
Yeah, I guess.
You can't run from a prison. No, you can't run from computers.
True.
They were like, wait, why aren't you in prison?
Like I said, back in the old days, it's so much easier to come. You could just axe a whole family and then just move to the next town, and no one would
never
know
catch
shit.
you.
They'd never catch you. Well, they never did.
Yeah.
But so they arrested this guy too, just because they said his itinerary looked a little suspicious, but I don't think anything came of that either. Actually, Clementine Barnabet was brought up to trial finally on October 24th, 1912, and found guilty.
Yep. Shouldn't have been talking all that shit.
Although the weird thing is that she only ended up serving, she was actually sentenced to life, but they said she only served 10 years. They said because they did a vaguely something procedure
Yeah.
on her that was supposed to make her a quote-unquote normal member of society. It was like the Ludovico technique or
Ludovico.
something. That's the first thing I thought.
I told you this was
they
Louisiana.
did the Ludovico technique on her.
This is Louisiana, man. This is Louisiana.
So they said, oh, she's safe now and she can get out.
She'll be all right. Yeah.
I mean, it had been 10 years. She served 10 years.
That's not what happened.
I'm sure it wasn't.
That's
I
not-
was like, that's very vague.
What happened was that they knew she was lying. They knew she was lying.
And they felt kind of
They
bad.
gave her 10
and they
years.
quietly were like,
They gave her
"Okay,
10
you can go."
years so they could get credit for an arrest.
So it looked like
justice was served. And then they said, well, we'll let her out 10 years. That crazy bitch, we'll let her out. They knew she was lying and she was crazy.
I kind of feel like, because I wrote about a couple other cases in my book where, the people were convicted of a crime, but you could tell the cops and shit didn't really think they did it. Because then, like, 3 years later, like, okay, parole.
Southerners might be kind of dumb and they might be kind of crazy, but they're not stupid. Okay,
They might be dumb, but they're
they
not
might
stupid.
be crazy. They're crazy. So they just, this bitch is lying. We know she's lying, and we got to give her life. All right, we'll get the arrest credits and we'll say we healed her and let her out 10 years from now. And then
That's exactly
It'd
what
be
this
awesome.
sounds
It'd
like.
be awesome.
Yeah, it's
That's-
like she's fine. We rehabilitated her.
Southerners going to find a way.
We gave her the Ludovico technique.
Gave her the Ludovico technique.
And
That
now
way
she
they
can,
can clear
and
the
now every
books.
time somebody tries to punch her, she'll throw up.
Everyone can look like a hero. Justice served.
I'm sure that's exactly what
And
happened.
then the panic will die down and they'll stop axing each other.
See, now I'm going to say, like I said, I should note that there is no Wikipedia page for the Mulatto Axe Murders or the Southern Pacific Axe Murders or whatever you want to call them, or the Voodoo Murders.
Why is the focus
However,
going out?
I don't know. However, there is a Wikipedia page for her. And it pretty much just says, yeah, she did all these murders. But see, I don't think I buy it.
She didn't
I'm
do
not
that shit.
saying, look, serial killer, I'm not saying there haven't been women serial killers. And there were probably more back then because everyone was hard ass.
Yeah.
But an 18-year-old girl
She didn't do that shit.
axing entire families? No, I'm just not buying it.
No.
I'm not buying it.
Bitch was crazy.
I don't. And the fact that so many of the crimes took place when she was in jail and when her dad was in jail. Somebody else did that shit.
My theory was
Was
that,
there a voodoo gang? No.
my theory
I don't buy
was
that
is
either.
that she was being abused in some way by the father.
Yeah.
This is a way to get rid of her father. And it was a way of kind of committing suicide.
Yeah.
All right. They rigged it up to where she did 10 years in jail, but then they let her out once her mind got right. That's, we'll put her in there and she'll cool off and then she'll age another 10 years and then she'll go out, then she'll be all right. And we'll take the credit for the arrest. That's what happened.
I kind
And my good old boys knew how to hook that up.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
gonna have to go with this with
That's
you
what
on this one.
happened. Yeah.
Because so like I said, as much as, Clementine is she's listed the couple times when I searched her name, she's kind of listed as, it's a big female serial killer, like she killed 35 people, she killed 49 people, stuff like, I don't know if she killed anybody.
I think she was fantasizing. She was lying.
I don't think she killed anybody. Yeah. And I really don't think that there was a voodoo gang. That just sounds, not saying, like, crazy shit happens all the time.
That was a panic.
But that sounds like, that sounds like some mass hysteria.
In the
shit
South,
right there.
that would have been a good money maker because you could write a lot about it in the newspapers and sell a lot of newspapers.
Exactly.
And think of how many pews you could fill. The churches would just be fucking, because in the South,
it was
fucking
all win. Yep.
the South was a fucking big church.
Yep.
Was a big business, and you could go out and go, yeah, they out there, people. They out there.
Look at them with their weird
Devil
voodoo.
Devil working on those people.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I know the
They're
fucking
axing
type.
people to death.
They come in your house with the axe, smashing each and every one of you.
Yeah.
Y'all know you need to come to the Lord. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
And I'm
exactly
sure-
what they're doing.
And like I said, I'm not downplaying because somebody did do that.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody did come in people's houses and smash all the little kids and everything with an axe.
I'm
Somebody
from the
did
Gulf
that.
Coast.
Did she do it? I doubt it.
I'm from the Gulf Coast. I know the culture well. I could turn the clock back to the early 1900s and see what a money-making opportunity this crime wave would have been for the establishment.
I mean, you see it a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've read several books about like the late 1800s, early 1900s, like the wars between the newspapers, because there was a lot more of them back in those days. So there was a lot more competition. So whoever had the most salacious, scandalous details and sold more copies, that was a win, right? So if they had to make shit up, they would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the cops and the preachers, they knew it was all bullshit.
Yeah.
They knew it was bullshit. If they had believed that girl killed all those people, they would have hung her ass.
Yeah.
The reason why they let her out is because they knew she didn't do it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, I don't know. Yeah, they found some bloody clothes in her house, but there was other people living in that house.
Maybe she had a nosebleed.
I heard there was brain matter on there too, but I don't know how.
Man, those guys will say anything.
That's what I mean. I don't know. So like I said, that's from the paper, but who knows? Was that true? I don't know.
Probably not true.
I don't know. I'm not buying it. Like I said, an 18-year-old girl, they're not usually axe murderers. I'm not even
What
really...
did she do for a living?
I don't know. They never
It
said.
takes money to travel to all these places.
Yeah, it's like, well, unless she was hopping the freight.
There's expenses to being a traveling serial killer. Think about it.
Well, yeah.
And if she didn't have any money, which I bet you she didn't have any money.
Well, yeah,
living
this
down
was
in
like
the
a
Ninth Ward.
very poor area.
She's down in the Ninth Ward. She didn't have any money. She'd have been robbing them people blind after killing them.
Yeah, why not take money? Because apparently, like in a bunch of the cases, like there was money left. There was like money in the people's pockets. There was like money left. There was valuables left around, and no one took anything. So,
because she didn't do it.
I'm not buying it. Somebody did it, but I don't think it was her.
Wasn't her.
I don't think it was her.
No.
And I don't think there was a voodoo gang.
Just like when you have serial killers today, you always have a certain amount of nuts that'll come forth saying, "I did it. I did it," confessing to it.
There's
they didn't do
always
it.
a small percentage of people that will
She
do
was
that.
one of those.
I think
it's
she
just
was one
that
of those.
back in those days they didn't realize that segment
That was a thing.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all it was.
I always wonder about the psychology of people that do that, because there's always a certain percentage. Every time there's some like really big ticket, mass murder or some kind of serial killer or something like that, there's always a certain percentage of people that will come forward and go, yeah, that
It's
was
a
totally
type of
me.
masochism.
I guess so.
The abusive relationship with the father. I think he was, involved with the daughter. Her going to the gallows and being hung for this crime alleviates her from her sins. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like suicide.
Yeah.
So, that's what that is.
And it reminded me, her
And
confession.
I guarantee the cops knew.
Yeah.
The cops knew.
Her
They knew.
confession reminded me very much of the fanciful tales that women that were arrested as witches
Yeah.
back in the Middle Ages would come up with. All this stuff about, yes, I puckered my lips and smooched the devil's backside.
Yeah, his butthole.
Dancing,
And his ass kissed my mouth and all that.
Yeah, like all the shit they came up with, like,
weird
with all the
shit.
frogs and all this
Yeah.
other kind of stuff. Like, it had the ring of that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like, she had a lot of details about the crimes, but a lot of details about the crimes were printed in the paper.
Yeah.
Because I read a lot of them. It was like, I could have confessed to that shit with the shit they printed in the paper.
And I imagine the cops are skeptical because some of the stuff that she was quoting came out of newspapers, and they knew that that's not what the crime scene really looked like.
And here's one thing. I saw one source, because one of the last ones...
Jenny, I'm guarantee you, before you go any further, if her stories had checked out with the fucking crime scenes and the cops believed that she did it, they'd have killed her ass.
Yeah.
This is fucking Louisiana. They would have killed her.
One of the crimes, like Norbert Randall, and I forgot to mention this when I was talking about that family getting murdered, all of them were killed with an axe, blah, blah, but Norbert Randall was actually shot. Now, she said in her confession that she shot him with a pistol, but she said she shot him in the breast or the body, but other sources I read said that he was shot in the head. So I don't know if that's another contradiction. Like I said, the thing that got me was that she was saying that she had killed the first victims, the woman and her 3 kids, that she killed them in 1910, in fall of 1910, when it was actually November of 1909 when that crime took place. So, yeah, people can misremember things a few years later, but, the fact of her saying, yeah, I shot that guy, but saying she shot him in a different body part than he was actually shot in.
Yeah.
That seems a little weird. So I don't know. I'm not buying it.
This is a Louisiana tale.
Yeah.
It's all it is.
This definitely needs a book all its own, because like I
Needs a book,
said, this is a fascinating, and I had never heard of it, so I can't remember who it was that recommended it, because it was a long time ago, but thank you for recommending it.
If you wrote
because
this the right way, this might make a good movie.
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I don't understand why they don't do, and they should do this and Atlanta Ripper, because it was going on about the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Atlanta Ripper, that was like
Atlanta
1911.
Ripper. Atlanta Ripper.
1911, same time.
I would do in Atlanta. I think Atlanta Ripper would be an awesome fucking horror action flick along the lines of Candyman.
That's what it made me
like
think
like
of.
Candyman. Yeah.
That's what it made me think of.
Yeah.
Actually, and
I got
think-
the shirt, Atlanta Ripper. If you guys check out that Atlanta Ripper shirt she made, I got one. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think you were wearing it on our Soldier review.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It did come out very nice. I
Came
was
out
happy
real
with it
good.
because
And on the back, it's got a full color little medallion of me and Jenny in the back of it. I got on the back.
yeah, it's
I liked
super cute.
Yeah. It's good.
All right, so let's kind of wrap this up because this
All right.
is going to be like another super long show. God, we go on, don't we? Especially like when we're drinking.
It's Friday night.
It is. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
recording this
Well,
on the
it's
Friday.
Not the
before
Friday
New
they're
Year's.
getting it, but
They're getting it on New Year's Day.
Getting
So
on
happy
New
New
Year's Day.
Year's again,
Yeah, happy New
everybody.
Year's.
And also, again, remember, if you like the show, do like, share, subscribe on all your social media. If you'd like to financially support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com. And there's a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account if you'd like to give a one-time donation.
give us some money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be nice. We'd really appreciate it. Also, my audiobook, like I said, Faceless Villain
Hell yeah.
Volume 2 is finally.
It's like 17 hours for
it's-
what was it? $24.
It's $24.95.
Yeah, and
it is
we're
17
we're
fucking hours.
and we're
long.
selling 10 to 15 of them a day. So go ahead and jump on.
And actually, if you look in the description below, I will put if you're not a member of Audible.
Yeah.
This is okay.
Check this shit out.
Yeah.
Check this
If you're
shit out.
not a member of Audible and you sign up for Audible and my book is the first one that you buy, then I get what they call a bounty.
Yeah, big bonus, like $50.
Used to be 50, now it's 75.
75.
But you have
dollars.
to buy it from the particular link. So I'm
Right.
going to put the link in the description below. So if you're not an Audible, if you're already an Audible member and you want to buy it, or like I said, if you're actually a patron, if I get free codes, I'll send you a free code if you want one.
And becoming an Audible member is kind of like subscribing to Stubbs A-List for AMC or like Shudder or whatever. You pay a certain amount a month, I think, and you get a certain amount of books, don't you?
I think that's how
Isn't
that
that how it
works.
works?
I'm not really sure.
We're not.
I'm
we're not in
I'm
with
not
them.
even a member of
Just,
Audible.
but you can check it out. I think you
I
pay
can't listen to audiobooks. My attention wanders.
Yeah, I think you can spend a certain amount a month and get a certain amount of audiobooks a month. So let's say you're a truck driver or you do a lot of commuting and you want a lot of audio material. I mean, a good audiobook is 12 hours, 17 hours, you know what I mean? So that's a lot of listening material.
Yeah, you want to listen to my beautiful voice for 17 hours.
17 hours, man. So there's all kinds of cool shit on Audible.
Yeah, but I'll put the
Yeah.
link in the to the bounty, or if you just want to go to the regular thing, you can go to Amazon or Audible.com and just search, Faceless Villain Volume 2, or search my name or whatever, and it comes right up on there. And like I said, if you like it, please leave a review. Even if it doesn't even have to be long, just a sentence or something like that. It really does help a lot. And I think that'll do it for episode 124, the first episode of 2019. Hopefully this will be a bigger, better year than the last one. We're really trying to make this a really good show for you guys.
Yep.
So we will see you next time. Bye.